Burzy followed the Demon King's playbook perfectly his whole life, and it got him killed like a joke. We open with him already on the ground, getting stabbed through the chest by some hero while his whole army just watches. And what's eating him isn't even the pain, it's the confusion. He did everything right, built the tower, kidnapped the princess, let the heroes grind through it nice and slow. Classic Demon King pattern, textbook execution. He was the top student at the Demon King Academy. Nobody followed the rules harder than him. So why is he the one bleeding out on the floor? The hero explains it, and honestly, it's brutal. The whole tower setup wasn't Burza being a genius overlord. It was a leveling zone. The heroes used him. They'd clear the tower, farm the loot, kill the Demon King when things got boring, wait for a new one to spawn, and do it all over again. His tower was a hunting ground, and he was the final boss with no idea he was the content. The hero's crew is literally thanking him for the good drops while he's dying. Burze snaps. He's not going out like this. He burns through every last bit of life force he has left, cracks open some purple energy rift, and takes the whole place with him in an explosion that goes full supernova. Heroes, castle, everything, carbonized. And right before he fades out completely, he thinks, the pattern was wrong. He never would have followed it if he'd known. Then he wakes up. He's standing in the middle of the Demon King Academy, completely disoriented, sweating, and very much alive. 15 years in the past, right in the middle of graduation day, a short guy is rushing him up to the podium to recite the Demon King's pattern, the exact doctrine that just got him humiliated and killed. The elders are there, excited, everyone's watching, and Burzy just stands there staring at the panel, knowing every word of it by heart, knowing exactly what following it costs. He snaps. Mid-ceremony, in front of everyone, he refuses. Then he goes further. He yells that the Demon King's pattern is trash. Out loud, in the hall. The students freeze. A professor's glasses shatter from the shock, and the academy president goes pale. That was the day the top student of the Demon King Academy became its biggest problem. Someone suddenly slams the table. It's the academy director, furious, because Bearzy dared to insult the code. Bearzy stands right in front of him as the director gives him one last chance to comply, but Bearzy is in chains, and the director makes it crystal clear. Refuse, and he gets sent straight to Arain. The room goes dead silent. Some can't believe what they're hearing, while others whisper that Arain is basically a death sentence. A few wonder why the director would even bother giving a criminal another chance. Then, the director looks Burz dead in the eyes and tells him he knows exactly what Arain is. And Burz? He smirks, tells them to go ahead and send him and says he'll come back, and when he does, he'll prove the code is trash. The director announces the sentence, and the portal begins to open. The bridge cracks in half, sending Burz into freefall. As he falls, he thinks to himself that he already knew this would happen, and there he is, plummeting straight into Arain, the place filled with the very heroes who killed him. Then, he shatters his chains, his wings spread open, and there is a massive impact as he crashes into a mountain. Burza has landed on the northern continent. He shakes his head and tells himself he won't be fooled twice. This time, he's the one who'll use this to his advantage. He narrows his eyes and roars, "The hero's code!" Cut to someone shaving. He buttons up his shirt. This is Gordon, the top student at the Demon King 8 Academy. He's upstairs chatting with the second and third ranked graduates about which Demon King they'll serve, since theirs is Lord Burzy. Gordon tells them their Demon Kings are great too, then laughs quietly to himself, because they're just not on Lord Burz's level. After all, Burz is from the Black Dragon clan, a once-in-a-millennium genius. With him, they could conquer any dimension, and Gordon's eyes are practically sparkling. Then he hears it, Burz's voice, screaming that he refuses. Time freezes for Gordon. Then Burz screams again that the Demon King's code is trash, and Gordon's glasses shatter from the sheer shock. Back to the present, Gordon is standing in the northern continent with his bags. He's pale, stammering, and asking why on earth but Burz cuts him off. Burz says he warned everyone that no demon would follow him. Gordon slowly turns to face him, and Burz extends his hand with a grin, saying it's good to see him. Gordon demands to know why he did it, then he explodes, screaming that Burzy basically sentenced him to die alongside him. Burzy tells him to calm down before he pulls his own hair out, but Gordon yells that's not the point right now. Burzy looks at him and genuinely wonders if he has always been like this. Then, Gordon composes himself and says, it'll be tough, but serving Lord Burzy is a challenge worth taking. Burz thinks it over, knowing that if he tells Gordon he's been reincarnated, the guy will think he's completely insane. Gordon starts huffing, then apologizes for the embarrassing display. He proceeds to quote Demon King Code Rule Number 1. A Demon King must build a tower in an easily accessible location, but Gordon says they can't build one here. as this spot is way too hard for humans to find. Burrs just laughs and says he's building it right here. He plants the tower seed and feeds it with Demon King blood to raise it. Gordon screams that this violates the code completely. Burrs looks at him and understands that you can't easily shake off faith that's been drilled into someone their whole life. He stares at the ground, concluding that unless Gordon dies or goes through something equivalent to death, he'll never truly believe him. Burrs clenches his fist, pours his blood into the seed, and looks Gordon dead in the eyes. The code is trash. Gordon feels the weight of those words hit him like a truck as the atmosphere around them grows heavy. The seed begins to take shape, fires a burst of red energy, and the tower begins to rise. Burzy explains that the code is useless because in Arain, there's an absurd number of heroes. The tower identifies its user, Burzy Deus. Race, Black Flame Dragon. The tower is summoned. Burzy tells Gordon that's exactly why Demon Kings keep dying, and it should be called the Hero's Code, not the Demon King's Code. Gordon stands frozen. The Hero's Code, and just like that, the tower is complete. Gordon stares at it, realizing that in the end, he actually built it here. Burzy tells him to get inside, and they find the first floor is completely empty. Gordon is used to towers packed with monsters, but there's nothing here. They reach the 5th floor, the Demon King's quarters. Gordon brings up rule number 2. The Demon King must kidnap a princess or a prince. He offers some advice, suggesting the nearest kingdom to the Korzen mountain range. He says to find a high-level princess from the closest kingdom, so that way they absorb the kingdom's rage and grief to grow stronger. They talk it through and agree. Then, Burzy says he already has a princess in mind, but Gordon will stay and guard the tower. Gordon is relieved, thinking finally, they're following the Demon King code. He asks who Burza plans to bring, but Burzy is already walking out the door. He pauses for just a moment, then heads straight for a nation at the far southern tip of the continent. A window is open, and wind drifts in freely. Burz appears before a princess. She's the 13th princess, a girl with 0 presence. He looks at her and speaks. Princess, I'm here for you. He stands before her and says nothing. The princess asks who he is, and he tells her plainly that he's the Demon King and he's here to kidnap her. She gives a small smile, then asks if he's sure he can handle her. Burzy doesn't hesitate. Of course he can. He's a Demon King. The princess stretches out her hands and says she'll let him take her. Burzy notes she's suspiciously calm. She just says she always figured something like this might happen, as she is a princess after all. Burza tells her he's not falling for any tricks. She says she's not plotting anything, and she didn't even know he was coming today. He believes her, but something feels off as the princess casually asks, "Aren't they leaving?" Cut to the tower in the mountains. Burzy arrives carrying the princess and orders that she be placed in the corner of the 4th floor. Gordon says there's something he needs to tell him. Meanwhile, on the 4th floor, the princess looks at the cold, hard floor. She's really been kidnapped. No pillows, no blankets, no servants, no beautiful gardens, nothing like the royal palace. Then she laughs softly and says it's not that bad. Back to Burza. An invitation from the Beast Tower? Gordon explains it's a welcome party for him as the new Demon King. By nature, Demon Kings are too proud to unite with each other, but Arayan is the one factor that forces them to cooperate. Burzy ignored them in his past life, but this time, he'll at least try some light exchanges. At the Beast Tower, Draxon the Wolf introduces himself as the Demon of Beasts, ruling for 70 years. He asks if Burz is the new Demon King and says he heard he mocked the code. Burz asks if he came to fight, then tells him to just say what he wants. Draxon laughs, says Burz has no idea what's going on, and that the director asked him to keep an eye on him the moment he arrived. Burz asks if he's talking about that ugly old vampire. The wolf asks how he dares speak of him that way, saying he has guts. Then he throws a slobbery piece of meat on the ground and tells Bearzy to lick it, promising to forgive him for what he just said if he does. Bearzy says he doesn't know why he's even here, but Draxon says he does. It's because he mocked the Demon King's code. Bears then notes that according to the guide, demons can't kill each other. But then he steps on the piece of meat, and a terrifying aura begins to radiate off him. He asks Draxon if he really thinks he'd follow that rule. The wolf freezes completely, wondering what kind of aura that is. He quickly says the director just asked him to check whether Burza had properly kidnapped a princess. Burza turns and says he already has one, and she's exactly his type. Back at the tower, Gordon says Burz displayed the majesty of a demon king perfectly. Burz brushes it off and says they need to stay prepared, telling Gordon to go check on the princess. Time passes outside the window. Burz reflects that this is going to be a problem if the other demon kings all have that kind of attitude. He realizes the consequences of mocking the code are bigger than he expected. He stands up and says he'd rather die than follow that garbage, deciding he won't repeat the same mistakes. This time, he'll build his foundation from scratch. Then, he looks at his panel, 13,000 points. He wonders why he has so many. Suddenly, a video message arrives from Draxon, congratulating him, even if their first meeting wasn't the best. Berza goes still as the wolf says he was genuinely impressed. Berza goes cold, knowing something is wrong here. Then Gordon appears, warning that there's a problem on the 4th floor. A waterfall, beautiful butterflies, a colorful landscape, and flowers everywhere. Berza stops dead, his jaw dropping. What the hell is this? The entire tower has been turned into a nature sanctuary. The princess turns around. You're finally here. Berza tells her he's sure he went to the 13th princess's castle, then says she's not the 13th princess. She smiles and says that was the plan, as he confused her with Elena. Berz breaks into a cold sweat, unable to believe what he's hearing. The princess laughs and introduces herself properly. She is Ernan, the first princess of the kingdom. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the king is furious. He's screaming that the princess has been kidnapped, demanding to know who dared to take his beloved Ernan, and orders every soldier to bring her back immediately. Back to the princess laughing. She reminds him she did ask if he could handle her. Berzi grits his teeth and asks how she fooled him, since he'd heard she was a brilliant elemental mage. She says she can hide mana in her ring. Then she asks if he wants to send her back. Berzi thinks to himself that going back now would be humiliating, so he says firmly that he's keeping her. Then his panel lights up with multiple notifications indicating he's been detected. He glances at it and tells her that changes nothing. She's still his hostage. At the kingdom of Hilderan, the king is screaming to kill that damn demon king. A servant says they've sent patrols and asks him to be patient, but he ignores it and demands they search harder. Another servant brings something strange to his attention. The last demon king, the one of lust, drew the hatred of many and was killed by heroes. The servants start to connect the dots, and the king grips his throne hard, concluding this must be a new demon king. Then a soldier shouts that they found traces of teleportation magic to the north, near the mountains. The king repeats in disbelief, "The Regressed Mountains!" Back at Burz's tower, Gordon says the army will arrive soon and asks if the Lord really thinks he can handle this. Burzy just laughs, doesn't answer, then says to relax, because they won't be able to reach here anyway. Meanwhile, the king is with his soldiers mapping out a path, but Berzi explains there's no way those nations can clear a path on their own. They'll be forced to hire a hero guild. And sure enough, the king says he has no choice and orders them to contract the hero guild. Inside the hero guild tower, there is total chaos, with everyone demanding to know about the demon and the kidnapped princess. Burz tells Gordon the guild won't care. All they care about is money, so they won't risk going somewhere dangerous. Gordon is stunned. Burza doesn't follow the guide, yet it feels like he's been through this before. It's as if Burzi has already seen all of this happen. Then the king shouts, asking if nobody is willing to work, and puts his head in his hands. Meanwhile, Burzi is at his panel, knowing it'll take time for any decent group to mobilize. He's analyzing his options, knowing this fear they're showing all too well. He orders Gordon to contact Draxon, stating he'll sell him demonic energy. Gordon screams at what he just heard. Demonic energy is basically the currency of dreams, and he wants to trade it for gold coins? Berzi says yes. He believes Draxon will pay an enormous amount, and he won't be able to hold off a hero army with the energy he has now. A fortress city near the mountains. Someone approaches the gate. The guards ask who he is, and he says he's a mercenary tossing them a coin. It's Burz, and he's planning something, but he can't navigate this city alone. He needs a guide. Inside the mercenary guild headquarters, one mercenary brags about how great it is. The soldiers handle the monsters, and they just take the spoils. Someone in the back asks if he hasn't heard there's a new demon king, but the guy says it's just a rumor. Another says he heard a guild refuse the job after learning the destination. The mercenary climbs on the table and says they're just putting on a show to squeeze more money, claiming everyone knows how crazy they get when gold is on the line. Berzi steps in and says, exactly. The mercenary falls off the table and says Berzi scared him half to death. Berzi tells him he seems smart and orders everyone else to leave, but they don't listen and attack. Berzi tears through them one by one. One massive guy winds up a hammer strike and brings it down with everything he's got. Berzi absorbs the impact and cracks the hammer in half, causing the big guy to panic. As more mercenaries raise crossbows, Berzi hurls the giant into the wall. The drunk mercenary is hiding on the floor, terrified. Berzi lets out a laugh, his aura flooding the room. Outside the tavern, the sounds of the brawl echo into the street. A girl wonders if they're fighting again, and a guy asks if they ever get tired. When the dust settles, it's just Burz and the drunk mercenary left. He tells him not to be scared and says he'll stop if he answers one question. Where is the slave market? They walk to the location together. Burz notes there are only human slaves here. He tosses a bag of gold at the mercenary and asks if there's anything rarer. The mercenary grins and tells him to follow. Burz is intrigued, noting that humans crave gold while demons crave demonic energy. In the end, they're not so different. He starts down a staircase, and the mercenary says it's right through here. Burz recalls his earlier conversation with Gordon about what he planned to do with the money. Then, he sees him, an elf, in chains. Burzy studies him, deciding he'll use this elf as a spy to sow chaos among the heroes. Another person appears, and Burzy says he wants to buy the elf, pointing to the mercenary to handle the payment. He asks if there's a problem, but the mercenary doesn't think twice and pays without hesitation. Burza asks them to leave, warning them the elf might go berserk. The mercenary hears Burza say it's fine, and that he'll cover any damages. They're alone now in silence. Burzy starts to unchain him, wondering how someone of noble bloodline ended up as a wretched slave. The elf senses his energy and asks if he's a demon king, questioning what a demon could possibly want with an elf. Burzy offers him a chance at revenge against the humans. The elf says it's tempting, but he trusts demons even less than humans. Burza says he's different, swearing that 50 years of loyalty will earn him safety and freedom. He adds that 50 years isn't long for an elf, which is better than being humiliated by humans like this. The elf asks why his race would trust a demon when they want to destroy the world tree that elves serve. And why would a demon even want to help an elf in the first place? Burzy laughs and reconsiders his pitch. He swears on the Great Demon King's guide that he will not lay a hand on the world tree. Then, he looks at the elf and says in return, he wants him to swear on the world tree to remain loyal for the next 50 years. The elf smirks and says he's a strange one. He stands up, introduces himself as Granada, and says he'll swear when he sees the Demon King who sent him. Burzy tells him he is the Demon King. Granada freezes, then bursts out laughing uncontrollably, saying a Demon King would never come to buy a slave himself. He says if Burzy really is the Demon King, he'll swear his loyalty for the next 100 years. They arrive at the 5th floor. Burzy brings up the 100-year contract. Granada says this is a scam, as he never said the tower would be empty. There's nothing on the 3rd floor, and the 4th floor is just a garden. What kind of tower is this? He yells that at this rate, the tower won't last, and there's absolutely no way he's working here. Burza snaps and asks if he forgot they made a contract. The pressure of Burza's demonic energy alone sends a chill down Granada's spine. He realizes the tower may be weak, but nothing on this mountain could attack them. He gets on his knees and swears by the sacred tree, 100 years of loyalty. He thinks confidently to himself that he'll get his revenge as part of this plan, assuming he's probably going to be given an important role. Burz tells him his first assignment, cook dinner. Granada goes completely pale. He starts cooking, but in his mind, he was supposed to be part of something important. Then the princess shows up and asks if she can help, offering to make a vegetable bread. In the dining room on the 5th floor, Granada whispers to the Lord that this woman is from the kingdom of Hilderin. Berze doesn't skip a beat and says yes, her name is Ernan. Granada explodes, asking if Berze has lost his mind and how he plans to stop the heroes when they come. Berze says that's exactly why he brought Granada here, telling him to sit down and eat. He says he's good at cooking, and the princess adds that she helped too. On the 4th floor later, Granada asks if he wants him to fight the heroes here. Berze says no, he wants Granada to cause chaos in the human world so they'll be spies. But first, he needs to assess Granada's abilities, so he calls him over. He says he'll use only one hand and no demonic energy, and if Granada wins, he'll cut the contract down to 50 years. Granada gets into position, saying Berze better keep his word. The two vanish into the field. Granada charges with everything, throwing rapid consecutive strikes. Berze notes his movements are sharp even after spending so long as a slave. Granada says a normal elf couldn't do this, so it's Berze's fault for picking the wrong opponent. Then Berze looks down. His feet are suddenly trapped in the ground. Granada shouts that Berze is too careless, and he's coming for his 50 years of life back. Berze laughs and says maybe he can pull it off, but he transforms his hand. He asks Granada if he forgot who his opponent is, telling him not to worry. He'll control his strength so he doesn't kill him. Granada starts stuttering, breaking into a cold sweat. From far away, a massive impact echoes across the mountains. At the Scarlet Hawk mercenary headquarters sometime later, the mercenary greets Berze warmly. Berze says he'd like to hire him for a year and tosses a bag of gold at him. The mercenary squad declares they'd follow him for the rest of their lives, but he mutters under his breath that he needs a new squad. Berze tells them to keep this man in their ranks as he'll relay his orders. Granada steps forward to introduce himself, absolutely beaten to a pulp. The squad looks just as wrecked, showing no reaction. Then they all start tearing up and hug each other with surprising warmth. Bearsy watches from the background, noting they might seem a little rough around the edges, but these are mercenaries who've survived the Regressed region. He scans the situation. The only hero who answered the kingdom's call is Hillen, the one who defeated the demon of lust. He looks at the assembled mercenaries, then shouts to investigate Hillen, the hero contracted by Hildurin. Back at the tower, Berza let Granada passively absorb hero energy, and now it's his turn to get stronger. Demonic energy points can be used to upgrade the tower or the Demon King himself, but the only way for Berzy to power up without spending points is with a spirit flower, a mana crystal that grants a massive boost in strength. Deep in the Regressed Mountains, amidst violent mana storms and powerful monsters, spirit flowers bloom after absorbing years' worth of natural mana, and their energy becomes extraordinarily refined. Burz tells Gordon he's going to look for some. Gordon says it's risky without proper preparation, like finding a needle in a desert. Burz agrees it'll be difficult, and Gordon adds that it's impossible unless you have an exceptional mana detector. Suddenly, someone knocks at the door. It's the princess asking if they're busy. The two men look at each other, cut to Berza and the princess outside the tower, ready to search for the flowers. She says she's excited because she's been a little bored lately, and he has to keep his promise to let her decorate the 4th floor however she wants. He says fine, as long as she can find the flowers. The princess thinks to herself that she didn't think she'd ever get to leave the tower. Then, Berza taps her on the shoulder, tells her to hold on tight, and takes off flying at full speed while the princess screams. She keeps her eyes shut tight, then decides to open one. She's amazed as she didn't get to see any of this when she was kidnapped because it was dark, but the world is so vast. Every day of her life had been the same. Magic training, studying, repeat. She tells Berza she's probably the only person who has ever flown over the Regressed Mountains, then asks him to call her Ernan, since they're going to be seeing each other for a long time. He stops and asks if she wants to move to the prison cell, and she apologizes. Ernan uses her spirits to help search for the spirit flowers. Burz figures they probably won't be back anytime soon. Then, one of her spirits returns. It found one. The flower is blue and looks like ice, but Burz looks around and sees they have company who got there first. He orders the monsters to obey, saying, "Leave this place and don't touch the flower." Several of them shout back at the same time, "No, we won't listen to a demon." Berzy starts laughing. Gordon was right. He charges up energy balls and tells them he'll turn them to ash. As the monsters charge straight at him, Berzy extends his energized hand, and a massive dragon-shaped surge of energy explodes outward. The monsters start melting into cinders. Others shout to target the weaker ones first, but Berzy doesn't even try. He just extends his left hand casually and fires it straight at the monsters, shielding Ernan. She stares in disbelief, realizing the orcs are powerful together, yet they can't even get close. Berzy forms an X with both hands and unleashes multiple energy dragons, showing the true power of a demon king. Time passes, and night falls after the battle. Ernan kneels before the flower in awe, a hyacinth of pure mana formed from water and ice. Berza picks it up and tells her if she finds more, she can keep one. But unfortunately, no matter how hard Ernan searches until she's completely exhausted, they never find another one. On the way back, Berzy looks at the flower and reflects. Taking Princess Ernan wasn't a mistake, and she might be more useful than he thought. Gordon appears and says he received a report from Granada, surprising Bears. Gordon explains that along with Hillen, there are 30 heroes heading toward the mountains, and they'll follow the classic hero's journey route, growing stronger as they travel. Gordon spreads out some battle plans and asks him to read carefully. Berzy tells Gordon that all of these plans are scrapped. This time, they're sending 0 monsters and allowing 0 interference. He tells Granada that weak interruptions only make heroes stronger. Gordon points out he's ignoring the guide again, but Burz cuts him off and says he'll focus on reinforcing the base, and he'll do it with a dwarf. Gordon loses it, saying if anyone sees that species in their base, they'll become a laughingstock. Burz charges up his energy to intimidate Gordon, then explains they need magical tools made by dwarves. Since heroes have gotten used to the Demon King's patterns, deploying dozens of mana cannons on the 1st floor would catch them completely off guard. Gordon thinks it over, realizing the heroes would never be prepared for that. He shakes his head, thinking this is way too far outside the code. Then, he suddenly notices Burz's throne is empty. He screams, wondering if this was another kidnapping. Deep underground in a dwarven city, a dwarf hammers at his forge. This is Loger Friedrich, the greatest dwarven blacksmith, scheduled, supposedly, to be kidnapped by a demon king. Bears approaches the gate as some dwarves speak in a strange language nearby. In his past life, he fought many dwarves, but this is the first time he's ever entered their city. At the Midnight Tavern, Berza asks where the best forge in the city is. The dwarf gives him a look, but Berz knows how to negotiate. The dwarf guides him toward the city center, where a massive hole drops straight down. Berz looks down and ignores the elevator. He was told to go to the very bottom floor. He slowly opens the door, and there he is, the greatest blacksmith. Loger is hammering something at his anvil, and Berze senses his mana, which feels like it's dancing. He extends his hand to grab him, but Loger slams his hammer on the anvil, and a massive surge of fire blasts Berz back. Berz realizes Loger felt his demonic energy as the dwarf attacks from behind. Berz catches the impact with his bare hand and asks if Loger is a hero. Loger screams yes and demands to know how he dares enter dwarven land. Berze laughs and says for someone who talks so much, he's pretty weak, and besides, he's not a demon. He grabs Loger by the throat and clarifies that actually he's a demon king. The hammer clangs to the floor as two guard dwarves burst in asking what the noise is about, but the room is empty. No one's there. Loger is hitting with Berz while the entire city shouts his name. Loger asks why the demon is here, and if it is about a princess. Berza says no, but Loger doesn't believe him. Berzi says he heard dwarves carve their own secret underground tunnels for emergencies, and tells Loger to show him one. Loger goes quiet. The reason he's always stayed silent is that he's terrified of demon kings. His eyes fill with tears as he wonders why this is happening to him. Berzi says if he tells him where a princess is, he'll let him go. Loger thinks back to a greedy hero who traded his life for a princess. He shouts that he can't do it, as his honor within the city would be destroyed. Everyone already knows he's weak, and if a rumor like that spreads, they'll believe it instantly, and he'd be tormented for the rest of his life. Berz keeps pressing, telling him to reveal where a princess is, or he'll have to take Loger instead. He leans close to the dwarf's ear and swears on the guide that if he helps, he'll guarantee his safety. Loger knows exactly what the guide means. He closes his eyes, resigned, then reluctantly leads the demon king to the secret passage. Meanwhile, all the guards have gathered at Loger's forge. A young girl stares at the scene, heartbroken. This is Louise, the princess of the Dwarven Kingdom. One of the guards tries to calm her down, but she shouts at him to shut up. She demands they bring the kidnapper to her, saying if they don't find him, she'll take their heads. In the secret tunnel, Berzi notices Loger's backside waddling in front of him. He gets annoyed, asks if he's really expected to stare at that the whole way, and tells him to hurry up. They finally make it out, and Loger says his part is done, so it's up to the Demon King now. Berzi turns and asks what nonsense he's talking about. Loger says he swore on the Demon King's guide, but Berzi tells him flat out that he doesn't care about that guide. Then, he wonders aloud what to do with a dwarf. Loger drops to his knees, says he can forge any weapon Berzi desires, and shouts that he can be used for anything. Berz says he'll spare him. Meanwhile, Loger is secretly thinking that the moment they're out of here, he's turning Berz in. He starts laughing to himself, confident Berzi is going to regret messing with him. Then sometime later, Loger goes pale. He's standing in the colorful world of the 4th floor. He's surrounded by Gordon and Berzi discussing how he's a hero. Granada shows up too, asking if he brought a dwarf. The princess also appears, first asking if he came to save her, then realizing he definitely didn't. Loger nervously asks why he's here and how he even got here. Berz explains he knocked him out and brought him to the tower. Loger starts laughing uncontrollably, then completely loses it, bursting into hysterics in front of everyone. Berz says he seems overjoyed to be his subordinate. Loger responds in tears, saying yes. Then Berz tells him what his mission is. Install dozens of mana cannons on the 1st floor to destroy the incoming heroes. At the Hero Journey preparation post, Granada reports there's a rumor spreading about a new Demon King who apparently uses black flames. And the reason the new Demon King hasn't been sending out demonic beasts? Supposedly because he's scared. Berzi says they won't gain anything during the journey and will eventually lose interest. He cuts the transmission and tells Granada to keep monitoring them. Granada thinks to himself, wondering if there has ever been a Demon King like this, as he understands human nature far too well. He enters the room quietly, grateful he isn't this man's enemy. Back at the tower, Berzi explains the restriction of the 1st floor to Loger. No mana stones allowed. Loger stammers that without mana stones, the cannons won't work on heroes. Berz continues, explaining that heroes have the ability to sense energy, and if mana is used, they'll detect it instantly. Then he narrows his eyes at Loger and says he was sure he brought the best blacksmith. Loger quickly blurts out that he invented a magical tool that can conceal mana, but it would take 3 years to... Berzi cuts him off and asks if that's the best excuse he could come up with to escape. He tells Loger he'll trust him, and Loger immediately asks what that thing is around his neck. Berzi says it's a magical device that can separate his head from his body, and if he tries to remove it, Berze will consider that an escape attempt. Berze travels to multiple kingdoms to gather mana-type materials and supplies. It takes about a month to collect everything and store it in his subspace pouch. Then they return to Wolfnor. Meanwhile, a table gets hurled at one of the guards. The dwarven Princess Louise is furious. She screams that it's been a month and they still haven't found Loger. The guards say they've investigated every tunnel dug by the blacksmiths, but he's probably already long gone. She whirls around and snaps that obviously he is gone because he was kidnapped. She grabs one of the guards and gives them exactly 2 more weeks, and if they fail, they die. She then orders all the tunnels the blacksmiths created to be sealed. Louise stands there seething. She finds a weapon that should have been completed before Loger was taken. She laughs quietly and whispers a plea for him to still be alive, as he can't die before finishing her weapon. Then suddenly someone emerges from a tunnel and she slowly turns. But Loger is wearing a facial recognition interference mask. She stares at the secret tunnel, wondering if that's him. They come face to face. Loger is absolutely terrified, and she starts cracking her knuckles. She smiles and asks if he was hiding because he didn't want to make her weapon, but Loger says it's a misunderstanding. She starts walking toward him, saying she'll punish him for running before he ever makes another weapon. Then, someone crashes through the ceiling with a massive impact. Louise jumps back and demands to know who this is. Someone steps forward. It's Berze, wearing the mask, ordering Loger to grab the equipment he needs. Louise starts charging energy, demanding to know why he's giving orders to her dwarf. She charges forward, saying he's her slave and he'll make weapons for her forever. They launch into each other. Berze sidesteps to the left, then delivers a spinning kick straight at her. She grabs his leg, completely catching Berze off guard. He gets hurled through a wall with tremendous force, but he recovers instantly and counters. The two trade blow after blow until they lock each other in a standstill. Louisa is livid. Berze recalls from his past life that she was one of the strongest fighters, far stronger than she is now. He analyzes the situation, knowing he could defeat her before she grows into her power, but it would drain everything he has, and her soldiers could capture him. While they battle, Loger is frantically gathering his equipment. Berze gets slammed near him and asks if he got everything. Loger says he's still dismantling the piece. Then we see it, a structure called the Mana Phantom, and it's enormous. Berze tells Loger to hurry, asking if he wants to die, and gives him 1 minute to finish. Louise charges while Berze warns Loger that if things get too bad, he's leaving him behind. Berze has no idea how long he can hold out without using his full power. They clash, and a massive shockwave erupts between their energies. Louise says she doesn't know where he came from, but he's not leaving here alive. Berze laughs and tells her to give up, as he's taking her blacksmith and this equipment. Then the tubes on the equipment come loose. Loger screams that he's done dismantling while Louise and Berze are still going at it. Louise hurls insults at Loger. Berze spots the opening. He drives a sidekick straight into her stomach. She goes flying and crashes into the wall. Berze tells Loger to get out of the way. Louisa screams that attack is useless against her. Then she looks, and they're gone. The guards finally arrive at the bottom, but they are too late. She points at the tunnel and says Loger escaped through there. Then she turns and sees the tunnel is sealed. She stares at the blocked passage and wonders if he really didn't want to make her weapon that badly. Then she smiles, thinking this is getting very interesting. Even if she has to search the entire continent herself, she's going after him. She whispers his name slowly. Loger. A chain drops to the floor. The Mana Phantom has been brought to the first floor. Gordon asks what the hell this thing is, and Berze says it's a magical device to stop the heroes. Loger announces the installation is complete. Berze tells him to activate it, saying it had better be worth all the trouble. The machine starts forming a mana spiral and begins to glow. Berze checks the tower panel. It costs 10,000 points to synchronize the Mana Phantom with the tower. He accepts, and his point count drops from 11,182 to 1,182. The machine begins syncing, identifying Berze as its master. Loger is completely blown away as he didn't know it would merge with the tower. He declares this is the discovery of the century. Berze asks the princess to cast whatever spell she wants. She generates a swirling vortex of fire and water, but Berze shouts for her to stop. He walks outside the tower, stands in front of the entrance, and turns around. He can't sense a single trace of mana presence. Not one. He tries to manipulate the tower with energy. Then something strange happens. The tower disappears. He extends his hand and recalibrates his energy, and the tower reappears. He freezes. Now he knows he can hide the tower, but it costs points. His total drops from 1,182 to 137. Berze laughs, knowing that using this right now will be difficult, but it'll be far more useful later. Cut to Loger begging to dismantle the device so he can examine it. The dwarf hugs the machine and says he's never seen anything like it in his entire history. Berze says if the trap wipes out the heroes, he can do whatever he wants with it. Loger tells him to leave it to him, promising those heroes are going to regret ever showing up. Later, Berze talks to the princess, presenting a proposal. She should face the heroes when they reach the 4th floor. She asks if he really wants her to fight, since she is a princess after all. Burzy says she's also a genius. He thinks to himself that asking this of an innocent princess is a bit irrational, but meanwhile she's already thinking about what techniques to use on the heroes. But Bears changes his mind, telling her to just reveal herself as an enemy, which is enough. She agrees, but on one condition. She wants to be introduced as the Demon King's subordinate, not as a princess. Bears pauses, then agrees without saying much. She gets excited and asks how she should fight, suggesting maybe trying to seduce them. Bears just tells her to do what was asked and nothing more. Sometime later, Bears returns to his throne with his panels spread before him. His preparations are almost complete, but he realizes it's still not enough, as there are over 200 heroes. He stares at the flower, wondering if in the end, he still needs to get stronger himself. He calls the princess outside the tower. She looks around and says there's nothing out here. Bears says it's her 3rd attempt and she should have gotten lucky the first time. Then suddenly a creature appears. Snow orcs. Again, Bears extends his hand, already tired of this, but the orc drops to one knee. He introduces himself as Krutu, chief of the Blue Ice Tribe, and bows before the Demon King. All the orcs behind him shout in unison, asking him to accept their tribe as his race. Bearza asks if he wants to become his race. Krutu explains that his ancestors betrayed the demon realm long ago, and he's asking for the honor of serving the Demon King to make it right. Burzy tells him to cut the speech, stating that in the end, they just want to get stronger by becoming the Demon King's race. Krutu says there's no reason to hide it, and orders an orc to bring something. The orc opens a chest containing 3 energy flowers. Bearza realizes that's why they couldn't find more, and he compliments Krutu's negotiating style. Krutu says that to survive in this land, his tribe valued wisdom over strength. The orc goes quiet and bows. Bearza allows himself a small smile at that. Wisdom above strength. He tells Krutu he likes him and accepts him alone. He marks Krutu and orders him to dominate the snowfields and strengthen his tribe for the sake of the Demon King. Krutu's horn radiates energy. He is now a new orc, bearing Demon King race status. He swears his undying loyalty, and the other orcs follow, and all bow before Bearza. Bearza's tower is now at maximum power. Outside, there is a legion of orcs. On the 1st floor, Loger and his 60 mana cannons. On the 4th floor, Ernan. Bearza sits on his throne with all his pieces in place. He stares forward with quiet confidence and tells the heroes to come. He's going to pay back every ounce of humiliation from his past life. Sometime later in a cold forest, a group of heroes announces their arrival. The mountains are right in front of them. Cut to the hero journey preparation station at Holton. Inside, a crowd is buzzing with energy. Heroes are greeting each other and shaking hands. Someone calls on Hillen to give a speech, but before anyone even waits for his response, the bearded man says he'll give it himself. Everyone gets excited. Hillen steps forward and thanks all the knights and mages, saying the journey is entering its final stretch. He explains the lack of challenges by saying the Demon King must be afraid. He raises a glass, saying tomorrow is the day the Demon King pays for kidnapping the Princess of Hilderin, and calls for a war cry. The entire hall erupts, shouting, "For justice!" Granada observes that the number of heroes hasn't gone up or down, mostly because Hillen's popularity has secured merchant support. He sees this as a problem and briefly entertains the idea of attacking them right now. But those are just intrusive thoughts, so he checks himself and steps outside to clear his head. Outside, Granada reports back the situation, saying the Lord should stay sharp in the mountains and not get caught off guard. Berzy responds and tells him to get away from the tower when they open it. Then Granada is suddenly spotted by one of the heroes. He quickly covers and says he just stepped out for some fresh air. The hero asks if Granada is nervous about the subjugation. Granada says yes, admitting honestly that even he doesn't know if things will go smoothly, since subduing a Demon King is an extraordinarily difficult task. Granada tries to lift his spirits by bringing up the time Hillen defeated the Demon of Lust. Hillen just sighs and finally says it was only possible because he had powerful companions. He asks Granada to have his back when the time comes, and Granada says he wouldn't even need to ask. Hillen calls them back inside, but as Granada walks ahead, Hillen's eyes go dark. He's remembering the battle against the Lust Demon. The next morning, the hero march is announced. The setting shifts to the Urgest Mountain Gorge. The heroes say the march is going smoother than expected, and some even start to doubt whether there are actually dangerous monsters here. Then a purple slime drips onto one of them. He looks down, confused, wondering what it is. He looks up to see a legion of ghouls crawling down the gorge walls. Hillen orders everyone to hold formation, keep calm, and not panic. Then someone spots it, a giant approaching. The creature is enormous. Hillen steps up, saying he'll handle it, and charges forward. The giant notices him immediately, but Hillen says a frost giant is no match for the Demon of Lust. The giant attacks with its fists, but Hillen dodges effortlessly. scaling up its arm. The creature tries to shake him off, but he keeps climbing, positions himself for the strike, and waits for the perfect moment. In the blink of an eye, he delivers dozens of clean cuts. He signals his team, and the group breaks into a full sprint through the gorge as the giant collapses and crumbles apart completely. Sometime later, the heroes rest, exhausted. They agree this place is no joke, and without Hillen, they'd be done for. Granada quietly studies the hero, wondering if he really has what it takes to defeat a demon lord. From the cliff above, the orcs are watching, and the heroes notice them immediately. The orc radiates an ominous aura and welcomes the idiot heroes. Granada tells them to be cautious, remembering the Lord's warning to watch the snow. He realizes that warning was for exactly this moment. The demonic orc declares that none of them are reaching the tower. Then a massive explosion erupts directly in their path. Granada is shocked to his core. He curses the Demon King for not giving him more details about this and desperately yells for everyone to run. From his throne, the Demon King hears the screaming. He's enjoying every second of it, stating that this time he's the hunter. The Lord had warned Granada about 3 things. First the snow, and now we see the result firsthand. Hillen orders everyone to stop and search for the heroes who got swept away. Second, never let your guard down. That becomes clear the moment the giants and the Pule orcs appear. Granada is internally seething at the Demon King as the cycle is relentless. Avalanches during the day, monster hordes at night. The hero is running on empty. 3 days have passed since they entered the Regressed mountain range, and after all of that, there's no tower. Hillen is furious because there's always supposed to be a tower at the end. The group's morale completely collapses, and one of the heroes announces he's quitting. Hillen asks him to repeat himself. The young man says it again. The hero's journey is a failure. The great hero's frustration is visible. After 6 days, they finally find it, the tower, hidden in a valley basin. Burning with rage, they push open the door to the first floor, but the Demon King has already set his trap. The moment they step inside, a wall of cannons stares back at them. The energy glow from the barrels lights up the confusion on every face before a blast of insane energy fires. Bears watches the count drop from 52 down to 1. Only Hillen remains. He's furious at this cowardly ambush, but then he's stunned to see Granada is still alive. Without wasting a second, he says they're climbing to the next floor now. His confidence comes from having absorbed the power of the lust demon, and he says they're more than enough to clear the tower. They reach the second floor, which is completely empty. The third floor is the same thing, an empty hall. There should be monsters at every level. Finally, they arrive at the 4th floor of Burz's tower. Hillen is completely thrown off by what he sees. Unlike the other floors, there's a green garden here and they're greeted. Hillen notices a woman approaching. The princess steps forward dramatically, introducing herself as one of the 4 celestial kings. She calls herself the Dark Spiritualist and announces she'll be their opponent. The boys don't seem particularly impressed, but then Hillen realizes that's Princess Ernan. She tries to play it off and doubles down on the Celestial King identity, then puts on a display of power, using a high-ranking spiritual technique that only the princess can perform. Hillen thinks through everything that's happened so far and concludes the princess must be under mind control. He actually laughs at how absurd the whole situation is. The princess attacking the very hero who came to save her. He tries to put a stop to it, but then someone appears behind him and he takes a direct hit. The Demon King himself has come personally for Hillen. Hillen barely blocks it at the last second. Knowing he can't do this alone, he checks if Granada is in any condition to help. Moving fast, Hillen gets behind Granada and tells him to combine their strength to hit the Demon King, but it wasn't a request. He drains Granada's power without warning, knocking him unconscious. Burz immediately clocks what he just used, and Hillen confirms it. It's the Forbidden Elf Devourer, which converts their vitality directly into mana. The only problem is that affected elves die on the spot. When asked if he understands, Granada, barely conscious, calls him a fraud and a hypocrite. The Demon King says he likes his vile, lowly attitude, and adds that all Hillen needs to do is remove that ring to become weak again. Hillen dares him to try, saying not even the demon of lust could pull this off. Mid-sentence, the hero's arm is gone. He can't comprehend what just happened, and when it hits him, he completely breaks. Gordon steps out from behind him, calling him loud and filthy. Hillen scrambles to reassess, wondering if this could be a demon of the highest tier. Then a hand lands on his shoulder as the Demon King tells him he's not going anywhere. His face is lit up by a surge of intense energy. His only thought now is that he has to dodge at all costs, but then he realizes there's no way out. He demands to know who is this Demon King. Burz says it's time for a proper beating, and the terror on Hillen's face says everything. From outside the tower, shockwaves rattle the air. Sometime later, the Demon King stands victorious, looking down at the fallen hero. Hillen is completely wrecked but still breathing. Burze orders his subordinates to chain him and throw him in the dungeon. Somehow, Granada is still alive. The Demon King moves to help him, saying he did well. Granada realizes his vitality has been completely restored because Burze had used a spirit flower on him. He also praises Loger's work and gives him the green light to dismantle the cannon setup. Once everything is wrapped up, he thanks his team and tells them to rest. Granada is impressed at how casually Burze handles himself after a battle of that scale. The princess is quiet, and Granada asks what's wrong. She says maybe the Demon King is exhausted, and she's right. He's been hiding it the whole time, as a Demon King can never show weakness. But now he has a real sense of just how powerful a 10-star hero is, and Hillen is considered one of the weakest among 10-star heroes. Burze admits that if Hillen had been at his peak, he might not have won that fight. But thanks to his plan of wearing him down, grinding him mentally, and breaking his spirit, he created the perfect moment for the Demon King to land his best strike. Burze is genuinely relieved he achieved victory without following the Demon King's guide. His destiny is changing, and for the first time, he truly believes he can alter the future. His plan for vengeance is one step closer. The result of that battle shakes the world. Everyone wants to know who's responsible for the failure of the Hero March. A representative tries to spin it, saying they haven't failed yet and hope still remains. But news of the new Demon King has spread across the continent like wildfire. Kings and nobles are furious at Hillen's defeat, and his whereabouts are unknown, though some say he's still alive. The world has fallen into despair, and Burze's demonic energy points skyrocket. At the Hero Guild headquarters, one member insists what they're saying is true. They debate the identity of the new Demon King, as it's unthinkable that a 10-star hero was defeated by someone new. Due to the extreme danger, a task force of 4,128 heroes is being assembled to subjugate him. In the underground dungeon of Burze's tower, the Demon King compliments Hillen's surprisingly fast recovery. Hillen tells him to get to the point. Without hesitation, Burze asks him to become his vassal. Hillen is absolutely stunned. Burze lays it out. His costs have been enormous, and he promises to compensate him with gold. The merchants can't help heroes in Hillen's situation anyway, as all of their investment was poured into one person, Team Captain Hilan Cargill. Hillen understands that even if he walked out of here alive, he'd be hunted by debt for the rest of his life. When asked how he knows this, Granada cuts in and says he told him everything. Hillen curses Granada as a traitor, but Granada fires back that Hillen betrayed him first. Burze explains his failure exists because Burze is a different kind of Demon King, but since heroes will eventually adapt to him, Burze has a plan. He introduces Hillen to the Armani Sphere, an item designed to monitor subordinates and prevent betrayal. Noting that several heroes have already been tested with it, Hillen insists his mental immunity will make the sphere useless, but Granada immediately sells him out again, saying a hero can voluntarily remove their own immunity. Hillen tries to stay strong, declaring he will never submit to a Demon King. Then Burze just rams the sphere straight into his mouth. The horror on his face is unmistakable. Sometime later, Granada asks what happens if the hero chooses death. Burze tells him not to worry, as the sphere has already activated, and a self-centered hero would never choose death. Gordon reports that Burze's current gold is insufficient, and the debts are piling up with severe restrictions. Burze calms him down and says it's time to receive a message. The Demon King Gathering, the summit that brings all Demon Kings together, is now calling. Burze knows that Demon Kings who've been active for a long time are sitting on mountains of gold coins. Gordon panics when he realizes Burze plans to trade more demonic energy for coins, but then he thinks it over and concludes Burze has been right about everything so far. An invitation from the Tower Union arrives. The Demon King smiles and announces it's time to outplay the other Demon Kings. The scene shifts to the Tower of Lies, on the 13th floor in the Demon King's private hall. Burze makes his entrance. Also present are Draxen Doldorf, Demon King of Beasts, Race, Werewolf, Queen Soldine, Demon King of Winter, Race, Ice Demon, Ugar Belva, Demon King of Indestructibility, Race, Titan, and the most charismatic of all, Jason Cockmond, Demon King of Lies, Race Unknown. Burze calls them fools and questions their decision to form an alliance. One of the Demon Kings calls him insolent, saying he's nothing but a newcomer. The two start trading provocations. Then they freeze, both of them at once. The Green Demon tells them to behave. Burze is stunned, realizing this guy just made the killing intent of two Demon Kings vanish in an instant. He wonders if that was the Green Demon's power, or the power of the tower they're currently in. The charismatic king calls the meeting to order, and the Beast King wants to speak first. He wastes no time and demands to know where Hero Hillen is. Burzy is quiet for a moment, and after a dramatic pause, he begins to speak. Cut to his subordinates asking if Hillen is dead. Gordon says he's probably just wandering around the Regressed mountain range. The subordinates keep debating the question in the aid reception room, and Gordon has no satisfying answer to give them, as he was told to make something up. Gordon is not happy about this at all. He calls the Demon King reckless, arrogant, a little brat, and several other things. The guy clearly needed to vent. But then he's surprised because the other aides are doing the same thing, all of them trash-talking their respective demon kings. Gordon quickly realizes what he needed this whole time was emotional support. Back in the meeting hall, the Titan says he can't believe what he's hearing. It's absurd. The hero never reached the tower because it wasn't at the mountain's peak, but what really puzzles the charismatic demon is that Burzy left his tower undefended to attend the meeting, even knowing he's being targeted, and he should know that a demon king who loses his tower meets a tragic end. Burzy says not to worry about it, finding it incredibly annoying that other demon kings keep poking their noses in his business. The green demon says he'll stay out of it from here. The Beast King is furious, warning that the Archduke won't be pleased, but Burzy doesn't even care what Archduke Arkine thinks. His one goal right now is to accumulate 100,000 gold coins. While the other demon kings continue their discussions, Berza is here for information. Then suddenly, the Ice Queen turns to face him, which Berza finds strange. On the balcony of the 13th floor of the Tower of Lies, Berza asks why she called him out here. She says he caught her attention, and that she agrees with his points. He's surprised, as in his past life it was the same. She explains she doesn't hate the code itself, she just thinks demon kings should be more flexible. Then she says she doesn't think he's bad, and that Berz is a little good-looking. The Ice Queen hands him a transmitter, saying she's excited to finally have someone to talk with about these things, and mentions the Green King is hard to read. Then she leaves. Burzy reflects that he can't trust this woman too much. Back at his tower on the first floor, the princess is offering sweets to Loger. She's in a good mood because the Demon King bought all her ingredients. Loger eagerly accepts, thinking to himself that no matter how bad it tastes, he'll say it's wonderful. But then he's completely blindsided. He declares the flavor so extraordinary it resonates directly through his mana, and while savoring it, he asks what on earth she made. She explains she mixed some spirit flowers into the dough, which explains why Loger felt it straight in his mana. She wonders aloud if she should offer some to Granada, and Loger says absolutely. Then the princess asks, should she offer some to the Demon King too? Cut back to the grand gathering, where everyone is starting to leave. Only the charismatic Green Demon and our Demon King remain, and the real agenda begins. The Green Demon wastes no time, stating he knows Burzy needs human gold. Burzy is stunned by how sharp this king is, and tries to figure out how he knows. The Green Demon immediately says it was Draxon who told him. He says he doesn't want to waste time on mind games and proposes a trade. Demonic energy points for human gold coins. Seeing Burz's suspicion, he simply says he's his friend. Sometime later, Hillen can't believe Berza actually got the money, but Berza instructs him to hide the source, as it can be traced back to the Green King, and that information could be weaponized against him. The rest of his heroes and mages have been repurposed, and the middleman is named Amon from the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. The hero is to use them to multiply the funds. Seeing that his men are alive and his debts are cleared, Hillen starts to see a future in this arrangement. He admits that working with the Demon King isn't a bad deal, all things considered. His men are shocked, but Burz reminds them they're not partners. He activates the sphere in Hillen's head, making it very clear the hero is, in fact, his slave, and his men are satisfied by what they witness. After making the dynamic crystal clear, Burzy tells him to leave. The princess calls out to Hillen right after, hands him a letter, and asks him to deliver it to her sister. Hillen says that's impossible, then asks why she's siding with a demon. The blonde princess tells him he knows very well about her family's secret and why she can't go in person. The hero realizes that rumor isn't just a rumor, and everything about the princess's behavior now makes sense. Sometime later, Gordon, ever suspicious, asks if the hero can really be trusted. Burzy says Hillen isn't despicable enough to care only about money, as he doesn't seem that type, but he's also not particularly noble. What Hillen most likely wants isn't honor, it's fame, which means Hillen could become the best spy of all. Gordon wonders aloud if he can be useful in some way too, and Burzy asks if his reasoning isn't brilliant. Gordon says yes. Then someone knocks at the door. It's the princess, offering cookies. The Demon King, still traumatized by how bad the last thing she made tasted, is about to throw her in the dungeon on instinct. But then he tries one, and his expression completely changes. The princess watches confidently. The king is overwhelmed and barely contains his reaction, saying the snack isn't bad for a mere human. He immediately asks if she used the spirit flowers, and she confirms it. So the princess is giving back the reward she received, and she reveals she has another request to make. Cut to Hillen's group, escorted by Krutu. After arriving at Hortonwalk, they depart immediately for the Kingdom of Hilderin. As for Granada, he heads to the Scarlet Falcon Mercenary Guild headquarters to dish out some discipline. He's furious that his men abandoned him in the blizzard. A mercenary tries to justify it, saying that place was fatal even for heroes. Granada fires back that he chose to abandon his captain. Before he can start the punishment, something catches his attention. A female hero named Kaidi introduces herself, requesting to join the hero's journey. His men speak highly of her, even mentioning she paid the bar tab. He tells the idiots to shut up. Granada explains that unfortunately, the hero's journey has already ended. She wants to know how a journey like this could possibly already be over. Some time passes, and Granada tells her a cover story. The Demon King's tower wasn't at the mountain peak. She accepts the answer, says she has no reason to stick around, and walks away. A subordinate comments she must be a rookie who doesn't know how the world works, adding she'll be lucky if she's not stabbed in the back by her own companions. Right as he says that, Granada notices something suspicious, knowing immediately something isn't right. Cut to an alley somewhere in Horton Walk. Knights corner her and say she needs to return immediately as her fiancé and the guards are waiting. Apparently, she's a princess who wants to live as a hero. Granada, watching from the shadows, tells himself this is none of his business. Then a blade appears at his neck, and a knight demands to know why he's spying on them. Granada thinks he can't get caught because he's using the Demon King's equipment. The knight concludes he's someone dangerous and needs to be eliminated, and Granada immediately realizes he's walked into a nightmare. A massive explosion rocks the alley. A knight shouts they found an assassin and tells the other guards not to let him escape. Things are looking grim, as Granada can't use his elven powers here, and the knights are built tough, saying they'll handle the enemy. The elf sees no way out until he hears a familiar voice. A blade intercepts another mid-air. Burzy steps in and remarks, so this is where Granada has been loafing around. Granada says he showed up at a really bad time. Meanwhile, the knights jump to the conclusion that the Demon King came to kidnap the princess. But Burzy didn't even know she was a princess, and clarifies he's not here for her. He has other business. A flashback reveals a conversation between Burzy and his vassalized princess. She was requesting Senial powder, a powder used for spirit contracts originating hundreds of years ago from a deserter elven woman who settled in the human kingdom. She was forced to create a potion that would allow humans to properly form contracts with spirits. The princess explains that without the powder, her spirit creatures could start dying off. But Burzy sees right through it. She's planning to form a contract with a higher-level spirit. He recalls his past life. Ernan eventually contracted a high-level spirit at age 27, and that alone was considered an unbelievable feat for any human. And now she wants to attempt it at 20. He concludes a contract like that would greatly benefit the tower. Back to the present. He says he has his own reasons for being here, and a massive burst of demonic energy lights up the area. An explosion is visible from far away. After it clears, Burzy is surprised because the girl blocked the attack. With a battle cry, she announces that heroes carry an aura capable of suppressing the demonic race. She activates her ultimate sword technique, the Crescent Moon Slash, a technique so difficult to execute it's passed down only through the greatest swordsman of the imperial family. She was sold off to a foreign king for being considered worthless within her own family. The girl is furious at having been traded to some old creep, so she begged her instructors to train her in the way of the sword. Her goal is to defeat a demon king and then finally be recognized as a hero. So once that happens, she won't have to obey her father and can choose who she marries. But without warning, her greatest technique is effortlessly intercepted. Burzy compliments her aura, says it's not bad, and then shatters her technique like it's nothing. He tells her calmly that she certainly won't die from just that. She realizes it then. This is what a real demon king is. Burzy smiles and says a heroic princess is useful in more ways than one, and she understands completely she is absolutely done for. Her men are totally helpless as more explosions erupt around the area. Residents wonder what's happening, and everyone is horrified to learn a demon did this. People rush to help the fallen knights, and word spreads fast that this is the work of the Demon King of the Regressed Mountains. Back at Burzy's tower, the heroic princess is in the underground prison, and Ernan asks if the girl's name is Senial. Burzy explains she's Kaida Jespine, the 9th Imperial Princess, and she'll be living with Ernan on the 4th floor. He justifies it by saying he picked her up along the way, and princesses bring in demonic energy. Then he catches himself, realizing he's been revealing confidential information to a disposable subordinate, so he quickly makes up an excuse to leave. He wonders to himself when he got so comfortable around her. News spreads that the 9th Imperial Princess has been kidnapped. At the Hero Guild headquarters, Hillen is called in to answer for everything. He admits, humiliated, that he was unable to find the Demon King's tower. The leadership points out it wouldn't make sense to punish a hero for journey failures, because if they did, no hero would ever agree to take on these missions again. They move to the next topic, launching a new journey to Regressed. Hillen says it's a bad idea right now, and the better option is to send a small reconnaissance unit to locate the tower. After that, taking the Demon King down will be simple, because if he were truly powerful, he'd never hide his tower. The leadership is pleased and everyone agrees with no objections. They await the final verdict, and the hero's journey is postponed until the tower's location is confirmed. Hillen thinks to himself, mission accomplished. Cut to Gordon briefing Burrs on Hillen's report. Burrs reflects that without Hillen, the Hero Guild would already be mobilizing another attack. His two agents have the crucial task of delaying the hero's journey, and he's also been accumulating demonic energy by kidnapping princesses. Loger continues reinforcing the tower, while Krutu is expanding territorial influence. And once Princess Ernan successfully contracts a high-level spirit, no journey will be able to threaten the tower again. After that, Burzy can finally shift focus to the outside world and to his true mission, vengeance against the damned heroes who humiliated him in his past life. But first things first, he needs the Senial powder, and the city of Amur is the perfect place to find it. That is, if he can avoid being detected in a city packed to the brim with powerful mages and heroes. We cut to the city of Amur, the city of magical engineers, then to a small, humble shop tucked away on the outskirts. A man is reading the news where the disappearances of the princess and the hero Loger are making headlines. Then the doorbell rings. Burrs walks in and asks if they sell Senial powder. The Akan Kingdom is the sacred land of magical engineering, and famous shops are always crawling with heroes and mages, so Burza deliberately sought out an isolated store to avoid being recognized. The shopkeeper starts going on about how lucky Burza is to find this item here, but Burza tells him to shut up. He picks up the powder, but something's off. The Senial powder he knows is green, and this one is purple. He asks why. The shopkeeper leans in close and says, this is newly developed, created in absolute secrecy inside the Mage Tower, and not even on the market yet. He grins and says if Burzy doesn't grab it now, he'll never get another chance. Burzy reads him immediately. This guy is trying to extort him. Then the door opens again. Burzy glances back as a short figure walks in, and he freezes. Two dwarves. They're talking about Loger. The dwarf guard speaks to the shopkeeper, saying he's looking for someone. Burzy studies the other one. That's definitely Princess Louise, but she doesn't recognize him, as he was wearing a mask during their last encounter. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper starts spinning a tale to the dwarf guard about a condition he has. His memory fails if he doesn't make a sale. The princess loses her patience and threatens him for trying to pull one over on her. The shopkeeper pleads for her to at least buy something since he's being threatened anyway, promising that if she buys just one item, he'll accept his punishment. The princess stops, blinks, then bursts out laughing, saying he's interesting and telling him to show her what he's got. The shopkeeper starts sweet-talking her while Burzy watches from the corner. The princess doesn't think twice. She pays, then asks if anyone by the name of Loger has passed through. The shopkeeper says it's the first time he's heard that name, but mentions a place called the Stag Leaf Shop, which is famous among blacksmiths who come to this kingdom. She turns around and decides to head there for information, and Louise and her guard walk out. Burrs looks at the shopkeeper and mutters that it wasn't bad, having sold that junk for 3 coins. The shopkeeper thanks him for staying quiet, then immediately tries to con him again, saying he can let him in on a little secret. Burzy just laughs and tells him to go to the Golden Moon Commercial Guild. The shopkeeper asks if he's connected to the Golden Guild, and why someone with such a bright future would even bother going there. Burza answers simply, that customer he just scammed? Her name is Louise Werft. A bottle shatters on the floor. The shopkeeper stutters and asks what Burza wants. Burza lays it out. Join the Golden Moon Guild with a monthly salary of 1 gold coin. Refuse, and he'll bring Louise back. The shopkeeper starts begging on his knees, but then he straightens up, looks Burza dead in the eye, and says he's not falling for this, telling him to get out. Burza just turns and walks away, saying, suit yourself. Then, in the blink of an eye, the princess is standing there, furious, and all the shopkeeper can do is freeze in absolute terror. Sometime later, Burzy walks out of the shop. He got the Senial powder, the regular kind. Then the princess calls out to him, thanking him because she got her money back because of him. Burrs asks what she did to the shopkeeper. She says she couldn't do much because she's in a foreign country, so all she could do was teach him a small lesson. If she weren't, she'd have ripped his heart out. Burzy thinks to himself that she's just as eccentric as ever. He turns her words over in his head, then asks if she is looking for a blacksmith named Loger. He pulls out an amulet and asks if it has anything to do with him, explaining that 2 months ago, he ran into Loger by chance in a tropical forest, and Loger gave him this amulet as thanks for feeding him. The princess says she's in Beerza's debt again, but she's busy tracking down Loger, so she offers him the amulet in exchange, noting it can be traded for the finest equipment in the dwarf kingdom. Then she turns and walks away, ordering her guard to contact the queen and request reinforcements, swearing this time she won't let him escape. As they leave, Beerza turns something over in his mind. She said, "Rip his heart out." In his past life, Draxen had absorbed the heart of a mythical beast, and that heart was the one thing Beerza had always wanted. But facing Louise head-on with her high-level equipment would be fatal. He concludes he needs to increase his own power first. To do that, he needs to send Louisa straight to the Beast Tower so that the mad dog Louise and the Demon King of Beasts, Draxen, would tear each other apart. And while that happens, Berzy takes the magical beast's heart for himself. After fusing with the Mana Phantom, the tower unlocked 2 new functions: a remote control for the tower and item transfer. Berzy informs Gordon that an unexpected situation came up, so he's leaving the tower in his hands. He orders Gordon to deliver the powder to Princess Ernan. Gordon presents it personally, telling her the material is of superior quality. Additionally, Berzy instructed that Princess Kaidi be placed on the 4th floor, and Gordon is also to teach her swordsmanship because Berzy will be testing her when he returns. A new upgrade is being installed on the 1st floor, the Inferno Tower. Loger is completely fired up, shouting that he's never built a masterpiece like this in his entire life. After the long update, Berzy thanks Gordon and tells him to stand by. He leaps from the rooftop, thinking to himself that now he can manage the tower without even coming back. Then, Hillen calls. He reports that control of the Merchants Guild in the Golden Moon is complete. Berzy keeps walking as Hillen updates him, then opens a door and orders Hillen to send a message to Granada to buy every elven slave on the continent. He also mentions he's sending someone to the guild, a con man named Jetson who will be useful, so put him to work. Berzy adds that he's already tracked all of Jetson's information, and if he doesn't show up, he'll send an assassin. Jetson is hiding somewhere, eyes full of tears. Berzy approaches the door, then closes it. Cut to Granada, who is accepting Berz's terms to gather his people to be bought. He knows this would save his people, but he'd be dragging them straight into the Demon King's grip. He grits his teeth, suspecting Berzy is probably planning to use them as spies just like he used him. One of his mercenaries asks why they're still practicing elven swordsmanship, then they notice the captain seems a little out of it. Slowly, one by one, they start sneaking away while Granada has his back turned. Granada decides this is the better path for his people. He raises his finger and releases his energy. The vice captain slowly looks behind him, then gets wrapped in Granada's vines, desperately apologizing. Then Hillen calls Granada, asking what on earth is going on. Cut to a crumbling structure deep in a forest. Louise is storming through, furious, hunting for Loger. Her guards keep urging her to turn back, but she ignores them, saying there's still one place they haven't checked. She looks at her guards, the Mountain of Beasts. One of them shouts that it's far too dangerous, but she waves it off. She states that if anyone dares lay a hand on the dwarf royal family, they'd be declaring war on every nation that uses dwarf-forged weapons. 200 years ago, someone made that mistake with a dwarf prince, and even a demon king was brought down because of it. The guard stutters, saying Loger might not even be there, but she doesn't care. It's an order. Meanwhile, inside Draxen's tower, someone screams his name. A subordinate rushes in, reporting that the princess is heading toward the Beast Mountain region. Draxen tries to piece it together, wondering if she discovered the heart and if she is trying to take it. He knows that if he absorbs it, he'll have supreme power in his hands. He roars, commanding them not to let that princess anywhere near it, but if it comes to it, kill her or leave her gravely wounded. The subordinate hesitates, saying that won't be easy. Then the scene cuts to someone perched in a tree directly in the princess's path. He warns her that this is the Demon King's territory and entry is forbidden. That's Max, second prince of Ormith. The princess tells him to move. He laughs, saying humans are truly stupid. In the war 200 years ago, one kingdom exploited that situation to seize territory and reap enormous profits. He tells the princess that if she dies here at the hands of a demon king's subordinates, history will repeat itself. She glares at him and calls him a bastard. Max lunges, ordering his men to kill everyone. The princess stands in the middle of her guards, not even flinching, then screams, "Anyone who wants to die, come first." Meanwhile, a subordinate warns Draxen that the dwarves are about to be wiped out, and Draxen desperately orders them to stop it. He realizes Max is planning to kill Luis and frame him for it, just like 200 years ago. He sends monsters and demons to make sure the princess survives. The battle rages on. Max cuts down every dwarf that steps in front of him, while some form a protective shield around the princess. A guard shouts that they have no chance in this terrain, but Louise snaps, saying she'll finish them all herself. She looks through a gap in the shields and sees Max has his spear raised, ready to launch it. Then he feels something behind him, an energy he can't describe. He He turns. Burzy walks forward, arms relaxed, and says, "Human politics are really something else." Max and Louise both realize these aren't Draxon's demons. Burzy looks at Max and says, "You're going down right here." Max reacts instantly, ordering his men to grab the princess while he holds off Burzy, but something starts approaching fast. Max hears it before he sees it, something screaming, charging straight at him. Louise appears in an instant, ready to attack, and demands to know how he dared look away while she was right there. Max is stunned by her speed and decides to deal with her first. But Burzy starts locking him in his demonic energy, and his eyes begin to shake with fear. The princess seizes the opening and cuts him in half. She lands on top of a tree, scanning for Berza, but his energy has already disappeared. With no time to think about that, as the prince's soldiers are still advancing, she shouts that she'll send them to keep the prince company. The remaining dwarves draw their beasts to protect Louisa. Berza watches from a distance, knowing that should be enough to keep the princess alive. He turns, his eyes fixed on a specific direction, the beast demon's tower. He's been waiting for Draxon to take the bait. 5 minutes earlier, inside the beast tower, Draxon roars, demanding to know about the demonic energy in the forest. His subordinate tries to explain, but the wolf cuts him off, analyzes the energy himself, and concludes this is definitely an elite demon. Something feels off to Draxon, so he decides to confirm it personally. When he arrives, he shouts, asking if the princess has been secured. A soldier responds that she was already surrounded by enemy troops before they got there. Draxon starts to lose it as the situation escalates. The soldier continues, saying they tried to save her, but then we see the princess dominating the battlefield completely. The soldier reports that she handled everything herself and apologizes. Draxon tells him not to make this more confusing than it already is. Then another soldier delivers the news. The prince was killed by the dwarf princess. The wolf realizes that if he kills some of the prince's servants now, the blame for the prince's death will fall on him. It's a good chance to earn demonic points, but Draxon orders them left alive. Then he asks if anyone located the demon king who invaded his territory, but the answer isn't what he wanted. Draxon presses 2 fingers to his forehead and asks if their noses are as useless as their brains. He knows this is a high-level demon, so he decides to use an ability he hasn't touched in a long time. He activates ultrasensory amplification, a technique that maximizes all senses by concentrating demonic energy into his sensory organs. The world around him shifts. He turns sharply, catching faint traces, and his eyes lock onto the mountain. He asks which direction the dwarf princess fled, and his soldiers say she went right. Draxon slams both fists into the ground. He roars, calls Burz every name in the book, and starts sprinting toward his tower, having figured it out. It was all a trap. He runs, piecing it together with every step. Near the entrance, some bears are working at the gate, but he throws them aside without slowing down. He keeps tossing them out of his way, muttering to himself if it could be Reyna or Ugar. Then his foot hits the ground. It can only be that bastard Berza. He screams, asking if the summoning beast is still safe. A bear responds that the tiger suddenly jumped into the lava. Draxon loses it completely and orders them to stop it. Then the lava begins to rise, and Draxon's eyes start to tremble. The shopkeeper traveling through town looks up. The princess and her guard in the forest look up at the sky. The mercenary and Granada stare, stunned. Even the hero looks on, speechless. And Ernan, standing by the window of the tower, watches without expression. Draxon screams, calling Jetson a dead man. But the scene shifts to a forest that is completely calm. Burz is lying there, disoriented, trying to figure out where he is. The plan was to store the phoenix in his subspace, but it was absorbed directly into his body instead. The last thing he remembers is being launched into the air alongside a volcanic eruption. Then, something catches his attention. Why are animals gathering around him? Berza feels like he's not quite himself anymore. He looks down at a reflection in the water and touches his hair. It's red. Meanwhile, at the palace of Ormuz, the princess is kneeling before the king, explaining that Prince Max died heroically protecting her from Draxon's subordinates. The king replies that he raised his son to be a brave warrior, so this is an honor. Then he slams his fist into the throne, shouting, "That's absolute nonsense." He orders the heroes to prepare a hero's journey to execute the demon king of beasts immediately. Back in the forest, Hillen is visibly shaken for some reason. Burz responds calmly, says some things came up unexpectedly, and asks for the report. Hillen tells him a hero's journey is being assembled, and several heroes are introduced. Captain Roselle, a 10-star heroine, and Vice Captain Palav, someone who reached the absolute peak through raw martial strength alone. All 200 heroes have one objective: attack the Beast Tower immediately. Burz is getting dressed as Hillen talks, then mentions some people want Draxon taken alive. Burzy turns that over in his head. Humans wanting a demon king alive? He concludes that to humans, a demon king's tower is like a gold mine with countless treasures sleeping inside. He mutters to himself that human society really is complicated, Then he tells Hillen he'll be joining this journey, and he'll share the Beast Demon King's weakness. But Hillen must be the one to deliver the final blow. Burzy adds to absorb the Demon King's power afterward, as it'll make it that much easier to earn the humans' trust. Hillen thanks him, but then hesitates and asks, if he gets stronger, can Burzy actually handle him? Burzy snaps, asking if Hillen seriously thinks absorbing one Demon King would be enough to stand against him. Hillen hangs up. Burzy immediately calls Gordon. Gordon picks up, startled, and asks who's calling. Burzy explains, then Gordon delivers news that stops him cold. Draxon has requested backup from the other Demon Kings. Burzy can't believe it and asks Gordon if he's serious. Cut to the Beast Demon King's tower. 2 Demon Kings arrive and one asks what's going on. Draxon tells them to go up and wait, and he'll join once the last participant arrives. The wolf grits his teeth, noting both Burza and Jetson are late. Cut to Burza launching into the sky. Gordon says he'll teleport to the tower alone since Burza is still in Ormith, but Burza tells him not to, stating he'll be there soon. He knows that arriving at Draxon's place without a portal would raise immediate suspicion, so he decides to head back to the tower and go with Gordon. But Burza realizes at this speed, he won't make it in time. He pushes himself harder. Then energy surges through his chest. His wings expand, and they turn red. He stares at them, as he wasn't planning to use this power yet. His heart pounds again, and something feels alive inside his chest. Then a sharp burst of pain hits, and he shoots forward at a speed he's never experienced before. He can't even track himself with his own eyes. Then he slams straight into the top of the tower. The impact shield absorbs the hit, sending smoke bursting outward. Burz is right in front of the entrance. He got there instantly, but he had absolutely no control. He walks toward the entrance, calling out for Gordon, and tells him they're heading to the Beast Tower now. Meanwhile, in Ormith, the heroes are scattered everywhere, completely distracted, staring at Rosal. Some are already trying to bother her. She tells them to get lost, and her attendant warns her to watch her language, but she snaps that they'll never conquer a tower with people like this. Then she notices movement in the crowd. It's Hillen, confident as ever. He walks up to Rosal and says he's here to lend his strength to the journey. She laughs, calls him a shameless loser, and says it looks like he finally took off that disgusting ring he always wore. Hillen laughs nervously, because she knows how he killed the Lust Demon King. He makes it clear that if she opens her mouth, her reputation goes with it. Rosal stands up and says regardless, she'll be the one to deliver the final blow to the Beast Demon King. Hillen responds politely, but there's no way he's letting that happen. A portal opens near the Beast Tower. Burza, Gordon, and several other Demon Kings arrive along with their subordinates. Draxon looks at Burz and Jetson, saying he'll explain the details once they're inside. Burzy stands still, says nothing, then exhales quietly, relieved they didn't arrive late. They reach the top floor of the tower. Ugar, the Demon King of Endurance, asks why they've been called together. Jetson mentions he caught wind of the hero's journey assembling in Ormith. Draxon says since he already knows something, he'll be straight with them, and then he roars. He declares that one of the Demon Kings sent a high-level demon into his territory and stole the Phoenix's corpse. As Draxon explains, Ugar is visibly floored that Draxon had been hiding a phoenix this whole time. The queen thinks to herself how foolish of him to lose something like that. Jetson analyzes quietly that the hero's journey is clearly just an assassination attempt. Then Draxon slams his fist down and declares someone is trying to eliminate him, but he refuses to die alone. To expose the traitor, he's going to use the black box key. Inside every tower, there exists a black box that records every action a Demon King takes. Demon Kings revere the pattern, but using it consumes an enormous amount of demonic energy points. And when the tower collapses, the box disappears with it. Burzy goes cold. He didn't see this coming. If Draxon opens the black box in his tower, there's no way out for him. Draxon continues, saying he needs permission from the tower's owner to use it, and unless one of them is guilty, there's no reason to hesitate. Burzy stares at Draxon, thinking, "You clever son of a demon." Reyna grants permission. Jetson grants permission. Ugar extends his hand and grants permission. Then, Berzadeus grants permission. Draxon says everyone's agreed, and he'll be in touch once results come in. The key is a single-use consumable. Burza pieces it together. Well before a hero's journey, Draxon would never invest that many points just to risk his own life. But the moment the hero's journey falls apart, he'll buy the key immediately and open Jetson's box, and his. He steps out of the portal, his mind made up. Before any of that happens, he needs to deal with Draxon. He tells Gordon to check the tower quickly, then he'll head out. On the first floor is a magic cannon born from the Inferno Furnace. Loger is absolutely losing his mind over it, screaming that he's never built a masterpiece like this in his entire life. Berza had told him he could build whatever he wanted, but he wonders if this guy is actually sane. He turns around and walks away as Loger keeps screaming his gratitude behind him. On the second floor, Kaidi charges in with a full attack that flies directly at Berzi. He catches it with one hand, then lets go and says she hasn't changed at all. Kaidi ignores that and decides to go all out this time, thrusting straight at Berze. He laughs, says she's improved a little, then extends his hand, releases energy, and tells her she still has a long way to go. Kaidi doesn't react as he canceled her technique that easily. Then, in the distance, her screams echo through the floor. A little while later, Berze asks why Kaidi is on the second floor. Gordon explains that on the fourth floor, Princess Ernan is preparing an invocation. Berze stops. An invocation? On the fourth floor of the tower, several spirit creatures are gathered around the now empty Senial powder flask. Ernan is channeling mana, speaking words too quiet to hear. She extends her hand, calling upon the great spirit of water, bound to it by blood, soul and soul. She swears in her name and asks it to answer her call. The mana rings begin to glow. Nernuniel, the spirit of water, emerges from the water's surface. She looks at Ernan, visibly impressed that someone is talented enough to summon her inside a Demon King's tower. She extends toward Ernan. Their hands draw closer as Nernuniel accepts Ernan as her soul companion. Then a beam of light erupts between them, and Ernan floats, submerged in light. As everything grows still, her eyes remain closed until she starts to fall. Berze catches her in his arms. Ernan slowly opens her eyes. Berz laughs and says he almost missed this entirely. The princess smiles, saying it was nothing, and it's all thanks to the Senial powder he saved for her. Then she looks at him and tells him she loves him. She immediately freezes in complete confusion over what just came out of her mouth, while Berze has no idea what just happened. She's screaming that it wasn't her, because standing right behind the princess is the spirit. Nair calls out to him, telling him to stop ignoring her, and that she saw that he noticed. Berze asks what kind of nonsense this is while Ernan keeps screaming. Ernan is caught off guard by Niruniel's provocation. She begs the spirit to stop. But our hero steps in and asks the spirit what he looked like through her eyes. Niruniel answers without hesitation. He looked like a beautiful demon king, destined to be with the princess. Our hero cuts her off and says he'll ask again. He takes on the form of the phoenix, then asks how he looks now. Niruniel goes quiet, wondering where his demonic energy went. He no longer resembled a demon king, and felt more like a spirit. Our hero thinks to himself that if he can fool even the eyes of a superior spirit, neither the demon kings nor the heroes will see through him. And that means he can join the expedition to kill the beast demon king with his own hands. The princess then asks why he would want to kill another demon king. The scene cuts. Berze is flying when Gordon's call comes through. Gordon asks if he was being serious, because it made no sense for a demon king to go out and kill another demon king. Our hero confirms it and says he already explained this before. Gordon points out that all he said was that he was going to kill Draxen, which told him absolutely nothing. Our hero asks if Gordon hasn't stopped questioning his decisions yet, but Gordon says this is completely different. One thing is breaking the rules, but if the others find out what he's doing, it'll be a disaster. Berze says that's exactly why he has to eliminate Draxen before he opens the black box, because if he doesn't, the one who ends up eliminated will be him. Gordon says he understands the reason, but asks if this isn't too dangerous, since, after all, he still hasn't overcome Arian's dimensional energy. It's then explained that dimensional energy repels beings from other dimensions. Originally, all dimensions are hostile to one another, and that's why demons become much weaker here than they are in the demon world. And that's why heroes eliminate these weakened invaders, maintaining the natural balance. But to overcome that dimensional resistance and invade another dimension, the Demon King's tower was created. That tower connects the demon world, the Demon King, and his demons through demonic energy. And by reinforcing the tower with demonic energy points, it becomes possible to draw even more energy from the demon world. That way, the Demon King gradually recovers his original power. In other words, the tower's height is the Demon King's power. Gordon continues. The farther from the tower, the less demonic energy he receives, so naturally he'll grow weaker. And on top of that, the Beast Tower has 13 floors, while his tower still only has 5. So even inside the Beast Tower, there's no guarantee of victory. Berz responds that even though he absorbed the Phoenix's heart, he hasn't fully adapted to it yet. Right now, any Demon King would be a serious challenge, but this time, he wasn't alone. Gordon can't believe what he just heard. Our hero continues. He will act under the name Feyre, and he will personally take part in the hero's expedition. The scene cuts to the arrival at Ormus. A group is fighting off a wave of low-ranking demons. Our hero approaches and asks why everyone looks so exhausted, telling them to call him Feyre. Hillen then speaks up. After gathering enough heroes, they departed to attack the Beast Tower. They did as Feyre had said, targeting its weak point, the tail, and thanks to that, they managed to weaken it. But in the process, Roselle was gravely wounded, so they had no choice but to retreat. And so, the hero's expedition failed. Burzy lets out a quiet smile and thinks to himself that now he understands everything. In this moment, he was completely screwed. Hillen keeps going. Even though they failed and caused major damage, they'll still have to treat the serious injuries because in the process, they also eliminated many demons. Our hero thinks there's still time. They have to resume the expedition before Draxen restores the tower. He then asks, out of curiosity, how the mage got injured, since in theory, Balaf Disrode should have been protecting the rear. The spy tenses at the name. Then someone cuts into the conversation as the red-haired mage appears. She says that right before the attack, he ran, explaining that him and his sponsors profit from the tower's existence, being nothing but a greedy bunch obsessed with money. After a brief greeting, she says Feyre arrived too late to join the expedition. Our hero asks if they plan to try again, and she says obviously, as she wants to kill the Beast Demon King, because after what he did to her eye, there's no way she can back down. Hillen cuts in, stating there are too many wounded, the potions are gone, and they're in no condition to try again. Our hero says those are simple problems to solve. If it's potions they need, he has plenty. They won't regenerate lost limbs, but they'll be enough to fight again. Roselle then asks who he is and why he's doing this. She also says she feels a gentle warmth coming from him, finding it strange since she's never felt such pure energy before, and asks how he accumulated power like that. Before answering, Burzy looks around. Morale is low, and just recovering their losses won't be enough. He needs to lead them to kill Draxen, so it wouldn't hurt to show them a little something. He releases the Phoenix Aura, drawing the attention of everyone present, even the red-haired mage. He introduces himself as the Master of the Phoenix, and says he's here to kill the Beast Demon King. Roselle wonders if this is the legendary Phoenix Spirit, which would explain that overwhelming presence that covered the sky a moment ago. His mana alone already rivals that of star heroes, and she thinks that if he's with them, maybe they can actually defeat the Beast Demon King. Meanwhile, in his lair, Draxen says he spent far more demonic energy points than he expected, and because of that, he could only afford one black box key. He inserts the key into a cube and immediately begins to see the entire history of another Demon King. He's stunned by what he finds and asks himself why he did that. He thinks he needs to tell the other Demon Kings right away, but his thoughts are interrupted by a sudden noise. His subordinate alerts him that the heroes have invaded, and this time, they brought another 10-star hero, Ralph Schmitz, the Master of the Shield. The scene cuts to 1 hour earlier. Burzy is displaying his power, and everyone fills with determination, but he stays uncertain internally about whether he should use the Phoenix's power freely in battle. Then he speaks with Roselle and Hillen, saying 2 10-star heroes aren't enough, and he wants to reinforce combat strength if possible. Roselle says that's convenient, because another hero just asked to join the battle. Our hero is surprised to see the new ally, the Master of the Shield, the strongest tank of them all. Back to the present, he was leading the Battle of Revenge, blocking every attack fiercely while using his shield to launch powerful energy blasts. He is described as the second strongest tank among the star heroes, and his weapon, the strongest defense, reflects every impact received. Burzy thinks to himself, he knows better than anyone how annoying it is to deal with him, since in a past life, he defeated him. He laughs quietly at that. Right now, he was surrounded by every kind of person imaginable, and if it were possible, he would tear him apart. But right now, Draxen was the priority. Roselle says she arrived after the journey started. If they had waited just a little longer, with the two of them together, they could have won without a single injury. Burzy consoles her, saying it's good to have confidence in your own abilities, but she shouldn't underestimate a Demon King. That surprises her. He continues, explaining that a Demon King always has a card up his sleeve, and they always play that last resort when they're about to die. He thinks to himself that Draxen restored the tower and bought the key, so he probably doesn't have enough demonic energy to stop the heroes, which means maybe this time he'll get to see Draxen's hidden card for the first time. They arrive at the Demon King's chamber, and the group is surprised. No creature in sight. The Beast Lord then speaks, calling them all insects and noting he didn't think they'd try again this fast, which is why he couldn't take care of other things. Roselle is surprised by the density of demonic energy in the room, wondering if that's why there are no demons here. The The Demon King confirms it and swallows a mass of demonic energy. Burzy is caught off guard, recognizing the dirty trick of absorbing the power of an entire floor. The Beast Demon King declares he will kill everyone there, so they will never dare to climb again. The group prepares for the Demon King's charge as he unleashes a furious roar. Some try to attack through the chaos, but a powerful strike forces even the tank to step back. The tank doesn't waste the moment and launches a counter with his shield, firing a powerful energy burst directly at the Demon King, but the Demon King deflects it head-on with ease. Everyone is stunned. Upon hearing only his true form, even weaker opponents seem frightening with the demonic aura. Our hero then activates a superior level protection magic using the Phoenix's power. Everyone is grateful, but he stays tense. He can't let Draxen keep gathering energy. He tells everyone to spread out and not to leave that barrier. The remaining 4 take their positions. The Beast Demon King is surprised, then furious, sensing a different mana in the middle of the group. Our hero only smiles. He's been found out. The Beast Demon King enters a state of rage, asking if it wasn't enough to steal the Phoenix, and if he dared set foot in his tower too. He immediately charges with everything he has. In response, our hero activates a silence magic so no one can hear what he says. The group doesn't understand the real purpose, they just thank him for canceling the Demon King's roar. Ernan then generates a superior level restraint magic. Draxen is furious, thinking they believe that would work on him, and breaks free of the restraint immediately. He declares this isn't a fight, it's a one-sided hunt, and in that moment, he will devour Burzy first. Our hero just taunts him back, asking why he's barking, because in that moment, no one can hear him. That infuriates the Beast Demon King further. The group grows worried as the Demon King advances on their hero, but he dodges a rapid sequence of attacks at high speed. Everyone is stunned, and Hillen says it's fine. They just need to remember what he told them. Meanwhile, the Beast Demon King keeps attacking without letting up, saying he doesn't care what the reason is. But since Feyre bared his fangs at him, he shouldn't think about leaving there alive. Rewinding slightly, our hero tells the group that the most important thing to defeat the Beast Demon King is speed, so everyone should aim for his weakness. They ask how, and he calms them, saying he'll give a signal when it's time. Back to the present, in the middle of Draxen's attacks, our hero reaches into his dimensional pocket and pulls out the Armani sphere. Draxen scoffs, saying that won't work on him, but our hero says it's not for him. Then Helene appears, charging a powerful attack. Draxen is stunned to see a hero turned into a subordinate. Our hero jokes, saying Draxen should try it too as it is very useful, that is, if he can get out of there alive. Draxen defends, then asks if that's all they have. Immediately after, an enormous sequence of consecutive spells rains down, taking Draxen completely off guard. Rewinding again, we learn this was all part of the plan. Roselle would unleash everything when an opening appeared as compensation for her eye. She pours all of her mana into a supreme level spell, Satellite Cannon. But even after the impact, the Beast Demon King is still alive. He rises from the rubble, asking who they think he is, and unleashes his full demonic aura, injuring all the 10-star heroes. He declares who he is, Draxen Dordolf, direct Archduke of Arcane, the Demon King who will dominate this dimension. And for the sin of leaving him in this state, none of them will leave there alive. He charges straight at Berza, who deflects while taunting, saying right now Draxen is nothing but a rabid dog. But Draxen keeps attacking ferociously. Our hero then speaks, saying he'll show Draxen the power of the Phoenix that he hid so carefully. He unleashes an attack that sends Draxen flying. Draxen is struck by the shield hero, then restrained by the red-haired mage. While he writhes, Hillen lines up the finishing blow, a decapitation, and our hero finishes by saying he'll make good use of the Phoenix. With one Demon King dead, everyone begins to celebrate, praising Hillen Cargill, who internally thinks they should keep praising him because he will become the strongest hero of all time. As the battle ends, the tower begins to crumble, and everyone debates between grabbing treasure or tending to the wounded. Our hero looks at Draxen's body, wondering if Draxen will also get a second chance. And even if he does, it won't mean anything because, until the very end, he couldn't abandon the principles of a Demon King. Time passes. Rosal asks Hillen if his plan from the beginning was to decapitate the Beast Demon King. He answers it was a misunderstanding, and that it happened due to the circumstances. She doesn't believe him, but she thinks that from the moment he said he'd join the battle, it seemed suspicious. Even so, he risked his life fighting, so she can't complain. Besides, she survived before because of him too. She then asks if she can take the Beast Demon King's corpse without objection, and he agrees. Someone calls out from afar. They found something in the ruins of the Beast Tower. It's revealed to be the princes and princesses who had been kidnapped. Among them, Roselle recognizes a face, the third princess of the Kingdom of Akan, Lavinia Akan. She's surprised and asks why on earth she's here. Lavinia answers with only one word: materials. Roselle stiffens and asks if she came here just to collect materials to create chimeras. Lavinia answers, monsters. Roselle concludes she entered the tower alone just to get monster bodies. Everyone is stunned that she understood what Lavinia said, but she keeps going, worried, asking if the Demon King hurt her. Lavinia answers, money, monsters. Roselle understands immediately. She traded money for monsters. Our hero watches the two of them walk off, now understanding where Draxen got all that money from. He's stunned at the thought that she entered the tower alone and made a deal with a Demon King just to research chimeras, thinking she's just as insane as in his past life. The scene cuts to a meeting of elders. They discuss how the Beast Tower was an important hunting ground. Even after aligning everything with the sponsors and restricting the star heroes, someone calling himself the Phoenix Master led the heroes' expedition to victory, and no one knows who he is. A mysterious figure speaks, saying that since the Demon King descended on Regressed, anomalies haven't stopped occurring. The time has come to tighten the reins on the heroes again, and he orders an investigation into the identity of the Phoenix Master. Now in the royal banquet hall of Ormos, everyone celebrates the victory. The king thanks the heroes for killing the Demon King and rescuing the princes, saying they don't have much to offer but asking everyone to enjoy. While looking at the celebration, Roselle says it's a gloomy banquet, though at least the cocktail is good. Hillen interrupts her thoughts, saying her dress suits her, and mentioning that apparently the princess has already returned to the kingdom of Akan. She eyes him suspiciously, asking if he's trying to leave his mark on her. He jokes, saying eating her right there doesn't require that. She grumbles and calls him a flatterer, then asks why Feyre didn't show up at the banquet, as she had something to ask him. Everyone who hears the name gets curious. Ralph Schmitz joins the conversation, saying the Phoenix Master was excellent. Everyone is surprised he can speak. Hillen says that, unfortunately, he had already left. The scene cuts to the mountains of Regressed. Burzy is talking with Gordon. Gordon asks if he really killed the Beast Demon King, and our hero confirms it. Gordon panics, asking if he's insane and how he plans to deal with the fallout from this moment forward. Seeing his subordinate's anxiety, Burzy tells him to calm down. Our hero says that with Draxen's death, the other Demon Kings will make contact soon, and he can't be absent in that moment because it would raise suspicion. He thinks to himself that in that last battle, he felt just how weak he really is right now. Even though Draxen used his last resort, he had already been weakened by the previous expedition, and even so, he barely survived the killing blow. Right now, he doesn't just need to recover his original power, he also needs to strengthen the Phoenix's power. Suddenly, a message comes through. He asks what happened, and the cunning Demon King, Jason, speaks, saying he plans to hold a meeting among Demon Kings in his tower. Our hero plays along, asking the reason for the urgency. Jason then reveals it's because Draxen Dordolf has died. Our hero hides his reaction, acting surprised. But Jason also mentions a new Demon King has descended, leaving Burzy genuinely caught off guard. He thinks that must be the Archduke's doing, wondering if the Archduke already foresaw Draxen's death. But right now, there's no proof against him because the black box disappeared along with the tower. Now arriving at his seat in the meeting, he tells himself there's no way to be found out, so he'll act with confidence. A female Demon King speaks, asking if he's the famous Berze Deus Roguna, introducing herself as Vivian Blunt, Queen of the Blood Moon clan. He answers dryly that his name is Berze Deus and sits down. She narrows her eyes, internally recalling that the orders she received were to investigate the demon who invaded Draxen's territory and to watch Deus, because if any Demon King broke the rules, it was most likely the one who dishonored the principles. Back in the present, she thinks this kind of temperament is actually the easiest to deal with and decides to provoke him a little. Jason opens the meeting, but Vivian suddenly stands, saying this world is interesting and it really makes sense that when one dies, everyone looks for a cause. But what she finds more interesting is the famous Berze Deus. She walks over and sits directly in front of him. He asks what she's doing, and she says she's curious about what kind of demon could turn the demon world upside down. He asks what conclusion she reached, and she answers that he's quite beautiful, and she likes that. Then she asks, how about one night? He pushes her hand away, tells her not to touch his body, and calls her repulsive. She freezes, stunned at the response, wondering if she really is the succubus queen. The Ice Demon King speaks up, telling her to return to her seat because even though this meeting was meant as a welcome, it's also to find out why Draxen was defeated. Jason is surprised by the direct approach. The succubus provokes, asking if she's also after the same man. They both go on the defensive, ending up at a standstill, and agree to leave it for later. The meeting begins. They discuss Draxen's defeat in a monotone back and forth until the topic of the Phoenix Master comes up. Opinions are divided, but they decide to investigate and proceed with caution. Burzy thinks that since he's disguised, The spying would be impossible, but he should be careful about showing his face and needs to keep an eye on the succubus queen. Looking at how she acts though, he thinks he might not need to worry that much. Meanwhile, on the first floor of our hero's tower, a recently captured princess tries to escape. When she finds the door, Ernan appears and asks where she thinks she's going, stating that for the safety of the tower and her own safety, she can't let her leave. The two get into position, but Gordon intervenes, saying if she wants to leave, she can, and whatever happens isn't his problem. He grumbles about human ingratitude. Kaidi is confused, but decides to take the chance and flee. When she touches the door, energy surges from it. Then an explosion of energy sends Kaidi flying through the air. Gordon explains, this is what normally happens when you leave the tower without the Demon King's authorization. Meanwhile, the princess is curious. She reaches out and touches the door. Gordon panics, telling her not to touch it carelessly or there'll be problems. But the door opens. Both of them are confused. Ernan starts closing the door again, but our hero holds it and asks if she finally decided to try and escape. Then he sees the mess and asks what they were doing. The scene cuts to the throne room. Bears learns that Princess Kaidi tried to escape. He orders her locked in the underground prison, but Gordon then asks, what about Princess Ernan? Because only those authorized by the Demon King should be able to leave. He asks how she managed it, and the answer is that the tower has already recognized the princess as a member. Gordon can't believe it. Bears thinks to himself that now that she has a contract with the superior spirit, she could escape the tower and cross the mountain range alone without much trouble. So he asks himself why she hasn't tried to flee, questioning what her real objective is. Meanwhile, Ernan speaks with the other princess, telling her she warned her. The other princess says there's no kindness without reason, so the Demon King must have ulterior motives, but the princess only says she left by her own will. Kaidi doesn't understand. Our hero finds it strange. She looked right in his direction, and he wonders how she knew he was watching. The princess continues, saying she fled because she had given everything to the royal palace, the royal family, and her father. And since the kingdom has been under siege, she decided she no longer wants to go back. Kaidi says that among all princes and princesses, she has the most overwhelming talent, and asks if she shouldn't be the future queen of Hilderan, calling it a waste for a brilliant future to be thrown away to become a demon king's subordinate. The princess then says it's strange that out of all 62 princes and princesses, the largest number among all the royal families on the continent, only her name is known. Kaide is confused as she thought there were only 28. The princess says officially, yes, and tells her that when she returns to the empire, she should ask the emperor directly, as he likely knows the answer. Ernan says she's not someone who cares about the royal family's honor. Kaide answers that's not something a princess who fled to avoid marriage should say. Ernan is embarrassed, then turns and walks away, saying she was just joking. Back in the throne room, our hero starts going over the information he gathered from the two girls' conversation. He orders Gordon to prepare Ernan as they're going out to look for spirit herbs. Now outside, Nai Runiel leads the other spirits to search for spirit herbs, making sure to leave our hero and the princess alone. She seems excited to be outside after so long. After all, lately the Demon King has been spending a lot of time away. Our hero then calls her name, and she's surprised. He asks if she really thought he believed everything she said, and orders her to tell him everything she's hiding. A tension hangs in the air, and then, from a distance, someone spots the two of them. In the same instant, Burzy fires a wave of demonic energy in that direction, saying there's a rat among them. The figure wonders how he detected the concealment magic from that distance as his clone dissolves. Ernan asks if it's a hero, and our hero confirms, noting it's been irritating him for a while. The princess says a hero who uses concealment magic and is scouting these mountains is probably the 10-star hero Daphne Filane, explaining he is a mercenary who specializes in gathering information and is rumored to specialize in concealment and cloning. Our hero thinks that he had heard of him in his past life, and a lot of information was leaked because of him. But this time, he's encountered him personally. The princess then asks if the tower is all right, and he says there is no problem. The hero continues searching behind the tower, but sees nothing because it was hidden. Our hero thinks this function will be useful for avoiding the hero's journey, and since the energy points haven't run out yet, there's no way to find the tower. He then turns back to the princess and says if she doesn't tell him everything she's hiding, he won't let her into the tower anymore. She says she'll tell the truth about herself, and asks if she knows the World Tree Child magic. The scene shifts to the hero scouting behind the Demon King's tower. The orc chief spots him and reports to the Demon King that he's already left the mountains of Regressed. Our hero thinks that was dangerous, as his tower almost got revealed, and even though it's getting stronger, it's still not ready for the hero's journey. He'll have to deal with Daphne somehow. Hernan says he was probably sent here at her father's request, and our hero says apparently her father isn't willing to give up on his first princess, or perhaps it's because of the world tree child she mentioned. She says it's a long story, and Burzy says he has time, so she then begins. In the past, the kingdom of Hilderan was a very powerful empire, but due to several wars, the country's power weakened, and they were demoted to a kingdom. Her father wanted to return to the days of glory when they were an empire, and to achieve that, more than a giant army, he desperately needed a magic genius, someone who could dominate the battlefield. But genius doesn't appear through education alone, and finding one naturally isn't easy. Our hero understands where she's going with this. She reveals she is a world tree child, a magic created to produce enhanced humans like her. She explains that during the fetal stage, an enormous amount of mana is forcibly injected to create a magic genius with an absurd sensitivity to mana. Our hero thinks they sound more like demons than humans, and asks if the fathers and mothers who went through this didn't die. She agrees that many died in the process, and even those who survived were born with deformities or died over time, meaning only the successes are made public. A monster interrupts their conversation. Our hero moves to eliminate it, but she steps in front of him and continues speaking without missing a beat, saying that among those successes, an absolute genius was created. The monster attacks, and she conjures an ice barrier, then immediately fires a volley of shots that pierces the monster from every direction. Our hero is left speechless. A human just defeated a supreme-level monster in an instant. It makes sense the king doesn't want to let her go. She then says it's power stained with blood, noting that with power like this, there's no one closer to inheriting the throne, and yet she still doesn't want to return, asking him to believe her. Hernan then says she'll tell him to use the magic item on her too, the same one he used on Hillen, but he says the Armani sphere breaks easily in a spirit's hands, so it can't be used on someone who manipulates spirits. He then threatens her, saying she should tell him her true intentions, and if she tries to deceive him again, he'll show her what a demon king really is. That only makes her angrier. She grabs his hand and places it against her heart. He's startled, asking what she's trying to do, and she tells him to listen to her heartbeat, as it will verify what she says. The moment he feels her pulse, with the power of the phoenix, he can also sense her emotions, a mix of anger, sorrow, and shame. She says this is how spirits communicate, by feeling the vibration between pure manas, and says she told only the truth. He confirms it. Then she reveals that when she first saw him, she knew immediately he was different from other demon kings, and he could help her. He's confused about what she meant by that, and she then asks him to help destroy the kingdom of Hilderan, leaving our hero completely speechless. Our hero says he'll believe her, and she simply thanks him. Then Niruniel appears, mouth watering, asking what is going on between them, and wondering when they got this close without her knowing. She calls the princess a sneaky little kitten, which leaves Hernan embarrassed, saying it's nothing like that, and that it was just the way spirits communicate. The fanfic writer laughs, saying, right, communication is done with the body. Our hero cuts in, saying he understood what she was talking about, and that they should finish the conversation about Hilderan back inside the tower. He says first things first, they need to use the spirits to find the hero's real body, and then capture him. The scene cuts to Daphne. He's splitting into clones to sweep a large area, wondering how he searched this entire area without finding even a shadow. He remembers the conversation with the heroes. They measured the hero's journey timing using their method, so the tower's location had to be right here, but he sees nothing and can't understand what's happening. Then one of his clones is destroyed, making him wonder how, since they should even avoid supreme-level monsters. Then all his clones begin dying one by one. It's revealed the orc tribe was hunting them, reporting to the Demon King, who orders them to destroy every clone they find. He thinks that after he's done with all the clones, he'll turn the hero into a subordinate, and then he can control the entire continent as he pleases. Gordon contacts him, saying there's a problem in the tower. The Mana Phantom is acting strange, overheating and looking like it's about to explode, leaving the dwarf worried. A series of messages follows. The engine has overloaded, and the invisibility cost has jumped to 100 points per second. Our hero thinks that with this overload, not even 10 minutes remain, and if he doesn't catch the hero in time, the tower's position will be revealed, and the hero's journey will begin. Gordon reports the area outside the tower is swarmed with clones. The hero thinks his calculations can't be wrong, and the tower has to be right there. He's running out of mana but has to find it no matter what. Burzy tells the orc leader they have no more time and they need to sweep every corner of that area and not let a single clone get close to the tower. The orc leader accepts the order. Our hero then contacts Gordon, asking him to send the locations of all destroyed clones up to this point. He thinks that this magic's clones can't move if they get too far from the main body, so they should have already finished sweeping everything around the main body. That means the location is in the middle of the destroyed clones. The hero says he knows the tower is right there, and the Demon King appeared in person, which confirms it. Just as he's thinking of pulling back and reporting, Niruniel appears, screaming that she found the main body. She unleashes an attack, but the hero manages to dodge, and she says he ran. Our hero then asks the princess for the location, follows the signal she sends, and finds the hero. He corners him, then tells him to make a choice. If he wants to live, he should obey. He releases the Phoenix's power, leaving the hero stunned and wondering if there are two Phoenix holders. But that's impossible, since the Phoenix's master is Farah, someone close to Hillen Cargill. Then he reaches a conclusion. The Phoenix holder is the Demon King, and Hillen is a traitor. He also realizes the earlier attack came from a spirit and decides it's impossible, concluding the princess is helping the Demon King. Having understood all of this, he thinks there's no way he'll obey, since just selling this scandal to anyone would set him up for life. He decides to run, but our hero was already prepared, saying what an idiot for refusing the choice that was offered. He fires an enormous fireball, telling the star hero to disappear. In his final moments, the hero wonders if this is really the power of a demon king who hasn't even been here a year. He curses whoever gave him this job and thinks he never should have accepted it if he'd known Beerza was this strong. With his last strength, he sends a messenger bird to the kingdom of Hilderan. Someone immediately brings the letter to the king. The king asks if he found the tower's location, and he confirms the bird carried exact coordinates. The king is satisfied, but the subordinate then says the mana bird that brought the letter caught fire in black flames and vanished right after arriving. The king understands that the hero ended up in the Demon King's hands, just like the bird. The king is furious, saying he underestimated this new Demon King. He orders contact with every hero guild immediately, demands the convocation of every star hero, and declares he will kill that Demon King and bring his princess back. Back to our hero, now exhausted. He thinks the power was greater than he imagined when combined with the Phoenix, but the fatigue was also far greater. He falls into the princess's arms, almost losing consciousness, and asks if his burning knees don't hurt her. She says spirit water users specialize in recovery, and also says he'd better not show weakness because the orcs might be watching nearby. He starts fading, saying he'll rest a little and loses consciousness. Time passes. News breaks that dozens of succubi have invaded the royal palace, which leaves the cunning Demon King furious, since he had told everyone not to let subordinates leave the tower and to stay quiet. Vivian says she has no obligation to obey, because she is a queen, and she's the one who gives orders. Jason says that because of this, human surveillance has increased, and he didn't want that to happen. She brushes it off, saying they're just heroes after all. He's incredulous, but she continues, saying heroes are prey for demon kings, and her subordinates running into heroes in the palace was just bad luck. Jason is even more furious and asks why the Archduke sent him a brainless nymphomaniac. She snaps that he should correct himself, as she is the succubus queen. Not just any nymphomaniac, but the greatest of all. Jason laughs and asks how many heroes she thinks are in this dimension. She says in the dimension she conquered, there were about 10, and since they say this one has many heroes, possibly around 50. Jason says they told her nothing, because if they had, she wouldn't be here. She's confused, so he reveals there are 4,132 heroes in this dimension. She asks if he's joking, because there has to be a limit, and there is no way a single dimension has that many. He says if this dimension had a limit, the previous demon kings would have conquered it long ago, and what happened to her subordinates wasn't bad luck, since running into a hero in this dimension is just a daily occurrence. She's horrified because the Archduke had promised her something. In her memories, she was promised the rank of Archduchess if she conquered Arayan and watched Berzy. But without her saying a word, Jason already knows. She's startled and asks how he knew. He reveals he knew very well because he uses that method himself sometimes, as it's normal to use a disposable informant and then throw them away. He then uses telekinesis to slam her head against the floor, saying, to be more specific, she was thrown away thinking she was the succubus queen, you fool. From this moment on, she should not think with that potato brain, not even anything resembling thought, and she will blindly obey everything he says. He asks her to confirm, and she says she understood. Now alone in his room, Jason looks at the announcement of Daphne Phileon's death, the tower location in Regressed, and news of the hero's expedition. He thinks the world is trembling with fear, which is not what he planned. Vivian wasn't the problem, since she was easy to control. The real problem was Beerza. Even if he wanted to leave him alone a little longer, at this point, There was no other way. He had to get rid of him. The scene cuts. Our hero is lying in bed. Ernan asks if he's awake and if he wants to eat the soup that is ready. He says he doesn't need it, but before asking where he is, he realizes he's inside his tower. The princess says she decorated a room on the 4th floor. He asks how much time has passed and how she got in. She says not to worry, since while no one was looking, she came in through the 5th floor window, and only 10 minutes have passed. He says she did well, leaving her all flustered and happy. He then asks if she did something to him, because a body that should be exhausted from passing out is now overflowing with energy. Niruniel then reveals the princess shared her mana with him. He's surprised that a spirit restored a demon king, but she explains he already absorbed a phoenix, so his body can absorb mana, which is why he could also use the spirit's communication method. While keeping a straight face, internally she says he couldn't just settle for putting his hand on her chest, since this time it was a full embrace. Our hero says this stays a secret between him and the princess, thinking a demon king showing weakness would cause leadership problems. The princess agrees, but with one condition. He asks what it is, and she says next time he has to grant one of her requests. He says if it's not troublesome, that's fine. She's delighted. Gordon contacts him, saying the kingdom of Hilderin has just announced they've found the tower's location and they're beginning the hero's journey. He shows the news. Our hero thinks this isn't the demon world, and messages travel through carrier pigeons here. When he attacked the hero, he intended to destroy it too, but the bird must have been released from another location. Even so, the hero didn't manage to reveal that he was the Phoenix Master. The princess sees a photo in the newspaper, and something in it surprises her. Gordon says apparently they're gathering all 10-star heroes, and it will take roughly 6 months before the hero's journey begins. Our hero thinks that if several heroes unite, his tricks won't work, and this time hundreds of heroes will arrive at the tower in perfect condition. He asks himself if he will die again in 6 months, ridiculed all over again, and wonders if there is a way out of this. The princess then says she has a plan and something she can do. Our hero is relieved, finding it funny, and says they should start the strategy meeting immediately, thinking to himself he will not die before getting his revenge. The princess then says her plan to stop the hero's journey is to kidnap her younger sister Elena, leaving our hero completely confused. Ernan then says they must rescue her younger sister Elena to stop the hero's journey. Our hero asks if Elena is the 13th princess of Hilderon, and the princess answers she's her younger sister, though they have different mothers. Even so, they were very close. Earlier she saw in the newspaper that Elena had been kidnapped by the Diamond Demon King, and she's worried about her. Our hero says it makes sense, since not every Demon King treats captives like he does. But she continues, explaining her sister is also a World Tree child. But unlike her, Elena was born with sensitivity to mana beyond any limit. As a side effect, she was born with a frail body, so even leaving her room was forbidden, and she couldn't even learn magic. But if she stays in the tower where mana is scarce, she'll be able to learn to control the mana and become an overwhelming force, which she could guarantee. Burzy thinks if he had someone else with Ernan's level of power, it would be very useful, but he questions if saving a princess isn't something a hero does, while he's a demon king. She says to just order the hero to do it. Our hero tells himself she's used to giving orders, and she confirms she's a princess after all. He then orders Gordon to tell Hillen to organize a hero's journey to rescue the 13th princess. Gordon is terrified. Now, at the Diamond Demon King's tower, in his chamber, the Diamond Demon King asks if he heard a hero's journey is coming to his tower, so he came to ask for help, and asks why he should help an idiot who insulted the principals. Our hero flies forward and says he didn't come for a favor, he came to help. The giant is confused. Burzy says a hero's journey is targeting his tower, and he should place the 13th princess he kidnapped on the 1st floor. That way, the hero's journey will simply rescue the princess and leave. The Diamond Demon King says that's ridiculous, since he hasn't heard any news of a new hero's journey. Our hero says then that's the limit of a Titan's ability to gather information. Ugur takes the bait, asking if just because Burzy is talking, he thinks he's something special, despite being trash who insulted the principals. He prepares a magic identification spell before attacking, but before he can do anything, Burzy mentions the 3rd prince of Gianna, the 7th princess of the Duchy of Velos, the 4th prince of Mechiel, and the 6th princess of Candaria. Ugur stops the attack. Our hero continues, stating all of them were removed from the line of succession, or lack the resources to launch a hero's journey, so even if he kidnapped one of them, it wouldn't trigger one. The Diamond Demon King thinks to himself that he also wanted to target them but wasn't sure, and wonders how Bears knew this. Our hero says it doesn't matter how he knows, but in Bears' head, this is information from his regression. He asks if the safety of his tower isn't what matters most, and adds that keeping a captive on the first floor won't cause him any damage. Ugar asks why he's trying to help him and what he wants in return. Our hero thinks he finally took the bait and gives weight to what he can offer. He thinks that in this dimension, it's impossible to withstand an absurd number of heroes with brute force alone, and Ugar must feel that too. He's not smart enough to hold the heroes off on his own, which is why he trembles in fear over every kidnapping, afraid to trigger a hero's journey. That hasn't changed since before his regression. Because of that, he tries to cling to someone else, a ray of light that won't let him fall. In his past life, that was Jason Cogmond. Our hero finally answers he doesn't want anything. He just wishes a great demon king could live a little longer. But internally, he thinks the appropriate move is to bring Ugar to his side and neutralize Jason's forces. Sometime later, at the Golden Moon Merchant Guild base near the Transport Circle station, our hero is disguised as Farah. He asks Hillen how things are looking for the hero's journey, and Hillen says, as ordered, they can depart at any moment. Rousel says she took the lead on mapping the tower invasion this time, since she scaled the Diamond Tower before. The Falcon Escalate Mercenary Guild says they're present and ready, and this time they'll show the true power of their guild. Burzy says that should be enough, since he'll only go as far as the first floor anyway. He thinks in the same moment, asking Granada and Aman Katrashu what happened with the elven slaves. They answer 33 in total across the continent, and every one of them swore loyalty to Granada of their own will. The merchant says without him, the negotiations wouldn't have worked. Our hero tosses him some money, which he happily receives, then immediately announces the hero's journey departs now. In that moment, they will rescue the 13th princess of Hilderan. Sometime later, in the underground warehouse of the Golden Moon Merchant Guild, he asks Granada if all of them really swore loyalty to him. He confirms by the World Tree. An elf speaks, saying since he saved them from a lifetime of misery, they can only find peace by expressing their gratitude. Another adds it is an honor for them to work alongside Granada. Our hero congratulates them on becoming vassals of the Black Flame Demon King. Seeing the reaction, Burzy asks if this is normal behavior. Granada confirms no one would ever imagine a demon king walks around like this. The elves all ask Granada what it means, and he answers he apologizes for not saying it sooner, but he had sworn loyalty to the demon king by the World Tree, so all those loyal to him must also be loyal to the demon king. All of them are furious, asking how he could betray the World Tree. He answers all of this is to get revenge on the humans, as he will never forget the suffering they endured. They all think of their pasts, remembering the ugliness of humans, and unite, saying they support his decision. Our hero thinks that even the purest elves fall this low when they experience the cruelty of humans. He then contacts Gordon, telling him that with the information they have, Gordon should create routes to infiltrate these girls into human society. Burza thinks to himself that in 6 months the star heroes will gather in one place to kill him. Until then, he needs to bring in new talent to strengthen his tower, expand his influence to have support ready in that moment, and at the same time cause chaos in human society to delay the hero's journey. Until then, he will survive, no matter what. Meanwhile, at the Diamond Tower, the heroes are attacking, thinking it won't be much trouble, but they keep their guard up. Someone reports they found the princess. Hillen tells Granada that since they found her, they should head back, and he takes charge of covering the rear while they take the princess out. Roselle finds it strange that the Diamond Demon King left the captive on the first floor, as it seemed almost like he was saying to take her and go quietly. Hillen says, just like the others said, maybe the Demon King got scared of Roselle, and that's good for them since the team took no damage, and in the process, they rescued the princess, so they should head back. Roselle finds his attitude strange, which puts him on the defensive, but she says he seems to have changed, because back when he was on the attack team, he would have demanded they climb to the Demon King's chamber, even if it was risky, all for popularity. But right now, he seems strangely calm. He says it's just her imagination, while thinking to himself he's calm because the Demon King told him the plan. Time passes. In the kingdom of Hilderan, a grand banquet is underway. The king gives a speech, saying if the royal family's reputation falls, the morale of future heroes' journeys can fall too. He says Hillen prevented that tragedy, and, in the name of the king, praises his efforts, saying he truly is the kingdom's hero. Hillen says he's exaggerating, since everything was thanks to Roselle Charnt at his side, which is why they completed the journey without problems. The king says even that humility is an example for all. Hillen is embarrassed. He then asks the king why Princess Elena isn't present. The king says she's in her room resting, and he's reinforced her security, so he shouldn't worry. But internally, the king thinks Hillen is showing strange interest in the 13th princess, wondering if he's fallen for her. He thinks if he could arrange a marriage between the two, the hero would become property of the Hilderan royal family, and he might finally find a use for the princess. He then asks everyone to raise their glasses and to remember this day. The hero tore through the tower of the cruel Diamond Demon King and rescued the beloved Princess Elena. He tells everyone to enjoy and dedicates that night to all the heroes, calling on them all to remember no one should underestimate Hilderin. For beneath the sky, it reigns absolute, and this nation will be strong and prosperous forever. In another part of the castle, Hernan slips inside, thinking all the heroes are at the feast, so their energy won't be hard to sense from here. Our hero says even so they should conserve energy, because if he raises his power too much, even the heroes far away will notice. Someone suddenly shouts intruders and orders to ring the bell. The princess says that'll be a problem and traps everyone in a water spirit binding. The confused guards ask who they are, and the princess launches into a grand introduction speech, calling herself one of the 4 celestial kings who served the Black Flame Demon King, the Mage of Shadow Spirits. Before she can finish introducing our hero, he cuts in, saying looking up from below is annoying, and finishes it himself. The princess is disappointed he didn't wait. The guards prepare. Our hero keeps moving forward. A guard thinks he has to kidnap the princess in silence so the heroes don't hear, and orders everyone to advance because he can't use demonic energy. Our hero is irritated, thinking even without demonic energy they think they can face him. Cutting to the scene briefly, the princess wakes from the noise. Meanwhile, our hero says he held back his strength so the tower wouldn't collapse, and now only the 2 of them remain. He thinks even the best royal guard was no match for a demon king. One of them tries to break through the wall to alert the heroes, but the stones go right back into place, moved by the princess's spirit magic. The guards only think that if this gets out, the kingdom's reputation will fall. Our hero says he's been looking forward to meeting the 13th princess of Hilderan, and he came to take her. She comes running past him, straight to her sister, and the 2 meet in a tight embrace. Berza then asks how she recognized her even with a face-blocking mask. She says she read the letter that was sent, and the person who wanted to come get her alongside the Demon King was her sister. Our hero thinks they look very alike. He asks about the letter, saying the chance was the one the princess gave to the hero. She asks how he knew, and he says if it happened in his tower, he obviously knows. She asks if he wasn't curious about what was written, but he says if there had been anything important, the hero would have reported it. Then he says they need to leave. Back in the banquet hall, the king receives news that the Demon King kidnapped the princess. He's furious at how fast it happened, orders the banquet canceled immediately, and screams, completely out of control, just how little the Black Flame Demon King thinks of this kingdom to do something like this. The blazing tower stood isolated among the snow-covered mountains. On the first floor, the cannon arsenal was being shown to the visitors, where the little girl got emotional, saying she'd never seen a mana cannon so huge or so uniquely designed, and asked if the host had actually built it himself. Loger Friedrich just laughed, saying that if the Demon King brought her here, she must be a princess with a real eye for weapons, admitting the work was indeed his own. The excited girl asked if she could try making a weapon too, leaving Loger genuinely impressed by the little cutie's boldness, joking that he'd hire her as his assistant. That leaves the girl practically vibrating with happiness, until a blonde knight walks over and asks Master Loger to fix the training dummy, wanting to know who the little troublemaker in the room even is. The star-struck princess is blown away by the knight's beauty, noticing that even under all that armor, she's absolutely jacked. The knight gets flustered and asks Hernan who this insanely charismatic girl is, so the princess introduces her younger sister, Elena, confirming that her little sister genuinely means it, since she's spent nearly her whole life, ever since she was born, lying in bed, so she wouldn't even know how to fake a compliment just to please someone. The knight's cheeks turn pink, hearing that the young princess was being completely sincere, until Gordon loses it, saying the Demon King's tower isn't a daycare, but Burrs coolly replies he never asked the grump to babysit anyone. That's when Elena walks up, adorable as ever, and asks if he's Assistant Gordon. Gordon snaps back, telling the 13th princess not to talk to him, since if word got out the Demon King smelled like diapers, it'd wreck his whole evil reputation. Elena fires back, saying her sister already told her Gordon cooks amazing meals and takes care of the entire tower, on top of being the hardest worker there. Then the girl bows, saying she's grateful for how much he always helps her sister. Gordon freezes, completely speechless. Meanwhile, Elena skips off, telling her sister she already feels right at home in the Demon King's tower, thinks the place is clean and totally free of scary monsters. Burrs just stands there dumbfounded, watching this little girl win everyone over in record time. Wondering what kind of sweet talk she'd try on him next, he asks what her older sister's been writing about him in her letters. Elena gets flustered and stammers trying to answer, then glances at Hernan, seeing she's about to burst from embarrassment, says it's nothing, and hides behind her big sister. Burzy mentions the 13th princess doesn't look that sick, and the first awkwardly says it's thanks to the tower. Berza gets curious, but Hernan explains Elena's condition is called mana overload. Her body's just too weak to handle it all. Since high-density demonic energy drains mana, the same way spiritual herbs lose their own mana when contaminated by demonic energy. She adds that's exactly why Elena kept coughing back in the kingdom. Her mana was being drained inside Ugar's tower, and while the girl plays around, she finishes by saying that here, Elena can fully recover. Bears wants to know if Elena will be ready by the time the hero's journey starts. 6 months from now, the princess says turning her into an archmage would be tough, but a high-level mage shouldn't be a problem. Our MC says that's good enough and decides the 13th princess will stay on the 3rd floor, asking Hernan to look after her well. But before the Demon King leaves, the princess has a request. Don't let Elena get directly involved in combat. She's still too young to see blood. Burrs remembers that Hernan wants to destroy Hilderon and assumes it's for her sister's sake, so he asks her to raise Elena well, so he can eventually make that happen for her. In the strategy room on the 5th floor of the tower, Burza mentions he expanded the space using the points he got from kidnapping the 13th princess. He says he's been handling throne matters alone due to lack of manpower, but to deal with the 10-star heroes down the line, he'll need a more systematic approach. Granting Gordon management rights over the room, telling him he can expand it further on his own if he ever needs more space, which gets the vassal pretty excited. Burzy explains 2 things are needed to block the hero's journey. First, strengthen the tower. Second, delay how long it takes the 10-star heroes to gather. Then he asks about the plan to scatter the elves, and Gordon says it's progressing. He's distributed them to trade partners through the Golden Moon Guild, until an orc appears on screen, warning there's a problem. In the kingdom of Akan, screams echo out over the missing princess. A messenger reports they found a letter in her room. The elderly king, trembling, guesses she went off chasing ingredients for her own chimeras again, and worriedly adds that if it's a frozen mountain the princess hasn't visited yet, he already has a good idea where she might be. He orders a search team sent to Regressed immediately to bring Lavinia back safely. Meanwhile, in Regressed, an all-out brawl is happening between a giant creature and a swarm of monsters. The beast with its jaw wide open snarls, carrying Lavinia, who's muttering about orcs while searching for ingredients. Some are already down and defeated in the snow, and Lavinia comments there sure are a lot of them here. The orc screen flashes a warning. A human mage is leading monsters and invading their tribe's territory. Burzy watches the report that Lavinia is closing in on the tower and that they're trying to surround her, but admits it's hard to stop her. Our MC recognizes the girl on screen, gasping her name out loud. And Gordon says he's researched Lavinia, revealing she's the only chimera crafter in Aurene, a skill that's rare even in the demon realm. Burzy gets worried since she's on a completely different level from the demon realm's own chimera crafters, and he's already seen her power firsthand before the regression, remembering how she invaded alone, leading a legion of chimeras, and kidnapped nearly all of his vassals. Not to mention the tower nearly collapsed because of her. Back then, the nickname given to Lavinia Aiken was the One Woman of the Hero's Journey. Burzy figures she shouldn't be operating at full scale for at least another 3 years, and wonders if Draxon's death pushed her to act earlier than planned. He explains Lavinia will only stop once she gets her ingredients, and she's exactly the type of princess who'd aim for a literal demon king's flesh if she's not satisfied. But he questions why specifically Regressed. Gordon warns that Lavinia is the 3rd princess of Akan, and her status is extremely high. If she got killed or kidnapped, the kingdom of Akan would send its entire army to invade. Burza gets anxious, since dealing with Hilderon's hero's journey was already too much. If they had to face the kingdom of Akan too, they'd never win. Burze tells Krutu he's heading over there, asking them to lure her far away so she doesn't reach the tower, and orders that a large-scale battle is strictly forbidden. Then he tells Gordon to provide support from where he is. He figures an untouchable princess invading the Demon King's territory is exactly how things looked right before Draxon died. Remembering that time, he'd sent Princess Anna toward Draxon and stops himself hesitant. He finds the situation eerily similar and wonders if someone sent Lavinia Akon his way just to mess him up. Burzy orders Krutu to get everyone retreating east while a snowstorm covers the battlefield. He's thinking there's definitely some mastermind who lured Lavinia Akan out here. Jason Cockmond is the only name that comes to mind. And if the Green Devil really is behind this, Burz isn't about to just sit back and watch. Meanwhile, Krutu blocks the Chimera's path, relieved that his subordinates managed to escape safely. Even if he dies, as long as everyone else is safe, the tribe will always live on, because protecting his people with his own life is a small price to pay. Facing the enemies, Krutu apologizes to his demon lord, and screams fiercely, begging him to look after his tribe. But suddenly the area shifts into a different color, which the orc, even shaken, recognizes as the black flames. A voice echoes near Krutu, asking who gave him permission to die. Krutu sees his furious master, since who decides when a vassal dies is him. It's right there in the demon contract, fine print, just needs a proper read. The orc apologizes, saying he'll accept any punishment, but the big bad boss just tells him to keep his head held high. Since even though he fulfilled his duty as chief, he shouldn't throw his life away. Loyal subordinates aren't easy to find. Krutu gets choked up and lets a tear fall. While Lavinia watches, and it's genuinely hard to tell whether she's more shocked by the Demon King's arrival or by the crying orc. Burrs evaluates the Chimera Legion and deems it dangerous, so he decides to thin their numbers while he still can, until a sister's scream cuts through the sky, and a group approaches to report that the princess's father is worried about her. That's when Burza realizes the group was actually out looking for Lavinia. Kane Akan, 5th prince of the kingdom of Akan, points into the snowstorm shouting that he saw chimeras. His sister must be here. Burz tells the orc he has no intention of becoming an enemy of the kingdom of Akan, so he leaves, promising that next time, nobody's going to be this lucky. Lavinia just stands there frozen, watching the Demon King vanish, while Kane keeps pushing forward with his men toward the light, calling for his sister. But when they arrive, they find a creature that's some kind of mashup between a toad, a bat, and pistachio ice cream, holding a note that reads, "Don't look for me." Kane screams indignantly, asking why his sister always disappears like this, until one of the vassals advises they turn back to avoid running into dangerous monsters. The prince agrees, confident she wouldn't be taken down by mere monsters. Plus, at least it confirms she wasn't kidnapped by the blazing fire demon king. But there she was, riding her pet, right in front of our MC's tower, who, already back home, knew about Lavinia Akan's psychotic obsession with Demon King meat, even before the regression. Gordon reports that the Akan Kingdom's scouts have already left Regressed, but Burzy wants to know if they split up after finding the princess. He answers his own question. The maniac is obsessed with materials, and probably ditched the search party on purpose, since if they knew she was heading to the tower, they'd have followed. Gordon then starts to say, if the Chimera princess vanished forever in that dangerous Regressed, Burza finishes the thought. The kingdom of Akan would have no reason to blame him or invade. The assistant, already scheming, suggests launching a full-scale attack, but the king hesitates, even though it's the best shot at finishing the girl off. And despite a strange gut feeling, he decides to face her alone and flies out to meet her. The chimera stares silently at Burzy until eyes emerge from its fur, as if someone's watching, deducing that Burzy personally coming out to stop him from seeing inside the tower was more cautious than expected. This was Jason Cockmond, watching everything through the chimera via his monocle. Burzy senses the Green Devil's presence and calls out to him, then feels the aura coming off the chimeras and wonders if the liar gave up parts of his own demonic energy body as material. Jason laughs and admits from his throne that yes, he did, but asks what Burz thinks he can do alone against a legion of chimeras comparable to a full-blown hero's journey. Burzy thinks, as expected, there's a lot of them, and they're seriously strong, but if he can reach Lavinia, he still has a shot. Until he notices one of the chimeras is carrying another aura, on top of Jason's, and Gordon whispers that new intel just came in from Highland Cargill, the body of the Beast Demon King, recovered by the 10-star hero Rosal Charnt, apparently ended up in Lavinia Akan's hands. Burzy spots a green glow inside one of the chimeras and asks if even Draxon's body was used as material. Jason confirms, satisfied, explaining that even for just an instant, it can replicate the speed Draxon had in life. He adds that a Demon King strengthens his power with demonic energy points, but since Burz converted most of his into cash and never got any reinforcements, taking down that chimera and Princess Lavinia isn't going to be easy at all. Jason adds that he's placed eyes and ears on several other chimeras, so while Burz is off playing, tag with Lavinia. If just one of them enters the tower, he'll be able to map the interior and design the perfect strategy, just like heroes do against Demon Kings. Then he asks what Burz is going to do with this checkmate. Burzy laughs to himself, recognizing he's been completely played by Jason. But this time, he's the one standing in Draxon's old shoes. But our MC knows once the battle starts, there's no turning back. And since he's already come this far, he clenches his fists, removes his cloak, going all in, and calls out to Lavinia Akan. Gordon screams in panic that no matter how powerful he is, disarming himself in front of those chimeras is dangerous. Jason watches, confused, wondering what Burzy is trying to pull, muttering it can't be what he's thinking. Then Burzy plants himself in front of the princess and proposes a deal. If she cancels her contract with the lying Demon King, he'll give her his own horn as payment, swearing it on the Demon King's own standard. The little critter practically starts drooling the moment she hears the word horns. Lavinia doesn't think twice and takes the offer, signing the contract right there on the spot, until the Demon King realizes what he just promised and swallows hard, knowing he's about to lose one of his most prized possessions. Burzy then turns and asks the princess to follow him to the tower to seal the deal properly. But the girl gets suspicious of the big bad, who assures her they'll simply sign the contract in peace, since he already swore on the Demon King's standard. So they head toward the tower gates. Jason facepalms, mocking that nobody would believe the Demon King swore on the standard over her and that he tricked the girl like he was playing with a toy. The Green Devil looks over the map of Jespine, saying it's the first time anyone's given him this much trouble, but he's already got the next move planned out. His eyes gleam as he wonders just how long Berzedeus can keep this up. Back at the Black Flame Tower, the dwarf stares in shock at something, while the knight actually stops what she's doing to check if it's real. And the princess sisters just wait for the next move from Berze, who walks into the hall accompanied by Lavinia, finding it odd that the place doesn't have the ingredients she was hoping for. But the king mentions he never promised her any ingredients. Kaidi asks who the new guest is, and Hernan answers, it's Princess Lavinia, so Loger says he already knows why she's here. On the throne, the Demon King stands before the Princess of Akan and tosses her the promised horn, but the girl screams furiously that this isn't the Demon King's horn, demanding what was agreed upon. Burzy admits he doesn't care about the standard oath, and that he can't hand over his own actual horn to a human, since it's the pride of the Black Flame Dragon. Lavinia's nerves start to snap, and she screams at her beast that this show-off is nothing but a liar, threatening him with death. Gordon steps in front of the king, begging him to leave, but Berze calms him down, saying it's fine. He explains to the princess that this isn't his horn, but he infused it with an equally potent power. The phoenix flames, just as strong as a Demon King's power, which makes Lavinia sway, since it's the perfect chimera ingredient. She turns into a kid eating candy, begging for more and more, which leaves Berze relieved. But the Demon King warns that from now on, nothing's free, and hands her the Armani sphere, saying it'll bind her mind to his. Lavinia swallows the sphere without a second thought and becomes the king's subordinate, immediately asking for flames, though Burzy admits this girl's got a screw loose, but he grants his new servant's request anyway. Internally, the Demon King celebrates. With Lavinia Akan under his command, alongside everyone else, he finally has an army capable of standing up to the hero's journey, which means he'll need to train them so they're a real match for the 10-star heroes. Until Krutu shows up to report, he's erased every trace of the Chimera's passage. The Demon King praises him and concludes the Kingdom of Akan will never imagine the princess is hiding in his tower, but decides to take an extra precaution. He calls out to the princess, who's currently feeling the weight of the contract through her precious horns. At the Akan castle, a messenger reports a letter arrived from the princess. Lavinia's drawing shows she found tons of ingredients and asks them not to search for her. One of the advisors suggests resuming the search anyway, but seeing his daughter so happy, the king decides to leave her be for now, taking full responsibility if the princess turns Regressed into total chaos. At the Tower of Intense Cold, the one with the nimble fingers, digging through a jar of candy, guesses Bears helped out, and Ugar confirms Bears uncovered the hero's journey attack plan and gave them a heads up, on top of passing along valuable intel. So Queen Reina concludes our protagonist is more trustworthy than Jason, even though she admits the Green Devil has helped her for way longer. The Titan admits Jason also helped him survive in Erin, but there's something about him he just can't fully trust. The Queen asks the demon to explain why, since he, Reina, and Draxen Dordolf survived decades in Erin thanks to Jason. But rookie Demon Kings always fell to the hero's journey in under 3 years, like the Demon Queen of Lust taken down by the hero Helen Cargill. Reina adds that if Jason had wanted to, he could have saved those rookies. Ugar, indignant at the suggestion Jason killed Draxen, asks the queen what they should do now, but Reina doesn't give him an inch, telling Ugar that if he's a demon king, he should decide for himself, and adds she still doesn't trust Burzy either. She also declares there's a way to find out who killed Draxen, even if it means asking a certain vulgar woman for a favor. In the kingdom of Burpupt, Vivian, the demon queen of lust, appears invisible and is informed she needs to kidnap the dwarf princess. The one running the mission explains on screen that Draxon's death started with her invasion. Plus, there are suspicions another demon king sent the princess to Ormus. And since Vivian only arrived after Draxon's death, she's off the suspect list, free to investigate however she wants. Vivian gladly accepts, but teases that she still hasn't heard the magic words. So Soldane grudgingly mutters out a forced apology, and Vivian pretends to be offended, laughing at the whole situation, to the Icy Queen's delight. But she takes the mission anyway to show what she's made of, arriving invisible at the dwarf city. She sneaks around, knowing Archduke Alkane sent her to find Draxon's real killer, and if she pulls it off, Alkane will finally let her go home. After all, the dwarves wouldn't be crazy enough to take on the entire succubus tribe. Inside the palace, she's having fun, since this time, no one's going to be able to detect her. Except maybe a really high-level hero, so she creeps up toward Princess Anna's room. But a young knight suddenly turns around, staring straight at her. Vivian jumps, startled, and whispers to her companion, asking if he can actually see her. The hero confirms he can, and reveals he even knows her true identity, drawing his sword. The two of them immediately clash, and the Queen of Lust demands to know why a hero of that caliber would be here just to guard a princess. Furious, she screams that she can't stand this disgusting dimension anymore. Helan Cargill confirms what he suspected. Vivian was there to kidnap Princess Louise. He remembers getting the tip from Berza, so he'd been on guard in the dwarf princess's room. Since trusting the Demon King would only make him stronger, Hyland charges in, swearing he'll take down the invader to pad out his own resume, but Vivian dodges quickly, insisting she'll never lose this fight. She kicks open the dwarf princess's door, asking where she is. The answer comes with the brute already charging straight at the Demon Queen, who's genuinely rattled by the dwarf's ferocity. But the princess swings her axe down, inviting the Queen of Lust to die. Vivian tries to defend herself, terrified, asking if this is really a princess, while Hyland jumps back into the fight, warning that this place is about to become her grave. Vivian's furious that a hero is acting as a bodyguard, wondering what on earth is wrong with this dimension. Then, enraged, she conjures a flash of light while asking for a quick water break. Hyland's vision gets blinded for a few seconds. He swears he won't let the demon woman escape, but suddenly everything turns to smoke and the hero can't even smell the horned lady anymore. Meanwhile, the dwarf princess screams hysterically, blaming Hyland for letting her get away. The short girl is furious about nearly getting kidnapped, and the hero didn't even manage to handle the demon, but Hyland's staring at something he probably wasn't expecting to find. So he goes to report to his real master that everything went exactly as predicted. Berze, on his throne, listens to his subordinate hero's report that Vivian got away. But he did manage to grab an item, which leaves the Demon King really curious, so he promises to send the object to the tower. The item was none other than the Demon Queen of Lust's fluffy tail. Far from there, in the Ocean Kingdom, Crudalord, the Sea Master known as the Calamity, stands before a fearless man wearing a bright pink sunga that leaves nothing to the imagination. This is Palav Disrod, one of the 10-star heroes, asking if the big monster is scared to look him in the eye, since this is only the start of the fun. But suddenly the hero flinches at the flash of light and grumbles, "Give me a break." Still, Crudalord stands tall, some kind of meteor hovering above his head. The monster catches the flash and glances sideways at the monument, but it's too late, and a massive fireball swallows everything whole. Suddenly Rosel Charnt appears, another star hero, with her flaming caduceus and a summoned eye patch. Palav complains about his colleague crashing his fight, but she explains it was just a coincidence. She landed in the impact zone to deliver news about the 10 heroes being summoned to Regressed. The masked guy gets pumped, saying this place is full of calamities. She fires back that they're only there to capture the Demon King, and complains about the masked man's addiction to fighting, even without any mana left. But Palav says the heroine should try the feeling herself sometime, and compliments Rosel's growth with magic, inviting her to a quick duel, no hard feelings. Palav's curious how she even found him. Rosel says it was a tip from the Guildmaster, who'd been talking with Hyland Cargill, praising the hero's recent achievements, defeating 2 demon kings and stopping the dwarf princess's kidnapping. Then announces that after reviewing everything, the guild decided to name him an Argon. Argons are the ones who, alongside the master and the 4 elders, decide the guild's direction. Even kings work hard to stay on their good side. Hyland gets emotional thinking about how an ordinary village boy made it this far, thinking he's so close to his goal now, and solemnly swears he'll fulfill his role as an Argon and become the greatest hero in history, until a voice echoes through the hall, asking how a rookie could become top dog overnight. Palav Disrod and Rosel Charnt stroll into the meeting room full of attitude. Palav greets Hylan, saying he heard about the win against 2 demon kings, and suggests they train together, but Hylan politely deflects, avoiding conflict. Then the master gets everyone's attention, announcing he gathered them here for a serious mission. Pavlov gets riled up, threatening it better be important or the masters will have to deal with him. And Hylan, embarrassed, asks for a little more respect. But the answer comes ice cold from the shadow on screen, promising to satisfy the masked man. He starts by saying they need to forcibly bring in 7 of the 10 stars, who are currently working in the Jaspain Empire's succession war. The master orders them to do whatever's necessary, and leave the rest to the guild's other heroes. The hero's journey has absolute top priority. Pavlov gets excited, asking if he gets to rough up the other heroes, but the master says they just need to round them up. Hylan gets worried about the news, figuring they're about to gather the 10-star heroes way too soon, since the Demon King is his ticket to success, and he can't let him fall before he becomes the greatest hero. With that, the infiltrated hero immediately reports the guildmaster's plan to attack his fortress, straight to Bears. And the Demon King gets uneasy about how sudden this all is. He suspects it seems way too coordinated, and wonders about Jason's involvement in this move. Bears asks what the plan is to accelerate the journey, and Hylan tells him they're going to interfere with the Jaspain Empire's succession war. Bears finds that odd, since the succession war is an ancient tradition of the Jaspain imperial family. The next emperor is decided by princes and princesses competing with their lives on the line. When the emperor issues a heavy task, the princes and princesses hire mercenaries to complete the stages alongside the heroes. There are 5 stages total, and the war usually lasts about 6 months. Burrs does the math and figures the 10 stars involved in the war are stuck there for quite a while. Heelan says 7 of the 10 have already been hired as mercenaries, but if Pavlov Disrod joins in, the war could end in a month or even weeks, and the 10 stars would get reunited fast. Burzy reasons that whether or not this is Jason's doing, he needs to move quickly. So he immediately calls Loger and orders the dwarf to move to the next phase and build a golem, leaving the little guy thrilled. Burzy tells Loger to use magi technology and has Lavinia help him build the big guy. As a reward, he says he'll hand over the Demon Queen of Lust's tail as material, leaving Princess Lavinia absolutely ecstatic. Our protagonist also calls Hernan, and the princess reports her sister's mana is nearly fully drained. Burzy activates his flaming wings and tells Gordon he's heading out to buy some time, leaving the tower under his care, announcing that he's going to personally intervene in the Jaspain Empire's succession war on Utara Island, territory of the Jaspain Empire. The island was recently overrun by a massive horde of undead, throwing the citizens into panic. And the final task of the succession war is crystal clear: subdue the sinister necromancer. His army of undead has been advancing, destroying everything in its path, and the Empire's orders were to protect First Prince Rufus Jaspain while he's carried away from the monsters. Maya Duafrin, one of the 10-star heroines working for him, confirms that even though this is the final stage, there's not a single retainer left available. Rufus, out of patience, tells Maya that even though she's part of the Star Hero Order, she's still a subject of the Empire and questions her loyalty. The woman simply follows the prince's orders. In another part of the island, Second Prince Floan Jaspain stands over his fallen sister, promising to give up the throne if she's saved. But he says he'd never actually do something like that to the girl. Suddenly a shadow appears behind the princess, burying a blade in her back. Floan smiles coldly, saying he'd never dirty his own hands. After all, he's supposed to be a noble emperor. Then he orders his mercenary Ralph Schmidt, also one of the Star Heroes, to clear the path and go after the other heirs. Elsewhere, even more zombies are being cut down by a duo who never skimp on complementing each other's combat skills, until the green-haired guy declares every citizen of the Empire should have a body as good as his, because the current generation is just too weak. Tyrion Jaspain vows that once he becomes emperor, he'll eliminate all his weakling siblings, and the Empire will thrive with only the strongest left. Gillian Eve, another Star Hero, agrees with his boss without hesitation to make sure that paycheck comes through at the end of the month. 2 hours have passed since the necromancer subjugation began, and out of 17 heirs, only 15 remain. Deep in the woods, the undead hungrily chase down a victim. It's young Noah Jaspain, the 17th prince, fleeing alone in desperation, since every retainer he hired has either died or fled, abandoning him. All he has left are the artifacts his older siblings left behind, except he doesn't even know how to use them. Suddenly, the kid trips on a root and falls, scattering the artifacts all around him. The zombies keep closing in while he tries to convince himself he can't give up, because if any of his older siblings become emperor, the Empire will be swept by a bloodbath. Then he remembers those who died protecting him and feels like he has to stop this, because a true emperor is someone who protects everyone. But when he reaches for his chest, he spots a corpse's foot right in front of him. The undead close in around him, and the young man accepts this is the end. He silently laments and apologizes to his his siblings, but a bolt of lightning comes out of nowhere, wiping out the monsters. The boy is stunned to hear a voice saying he arrived just in time, and he looks up at Reincarnation, sword in hand, recognizing the hero. Disbelieving, a phoenix feather floats in front of Noah, and when he looks up at the sky, he sees a man with red hair landing on wings of fire. It was Burzy, under another identity, saying that if Noah was looking to hire someone, maybe he could help. Noah loses his breath for a second, but then, without a second thought, he shouts that he's hiring him right then and there. Our demon flashes a crooked smile and seals the deal, quickly turning the zombies into a barbecue. 10 minutes earlier, elsewhere on the island, Burzy, already disguised, explains the goal is simply to stop the 10 heroes from joining the hero's journey. He tells Hylan that to do this, they'll trap them on Utera, buying time so the succession war never ends. The hero mentions the problem is Palav Disrod, so Burzy figures they'll need an employer to enter the competition. And Hylan already has a name, the 17th Prince, Noah Jaspain, who was sobbing his eyes out, thanking them for the help. The kid explains he needs to stop his older siblings and the 4th princess at any cost, but he has no money to hire famous heroes, so he offers his artifacts as payment. Burzy refuses, saying he doesn't need Noah's money. He just needs Noah's sense of justice to save the empire from those corrupt nobles. And with the kid already hooked, adds that a true emperor is someone who saves everyone. Noah gets choked up by those words, which he's always believed to be true. The screen shows Burzy's contract, identifying himself as Pale, with Hylan at the service of the 17th Prince. Burzy smiles at how easy it is to sway a human, and asks the prince if they can go stop the others now. Noah, full of himself, orders his new hires to protect everyone. Razel Chant senses a strange energy and immediately recognizes the Phoenix Flame. Palav Disrod also feels the presence and gets curious, thinking someone interesting just showed up on the island. Then, in full WWE wrestler style with his tight little Speedo, he figures this will be way more fun than fighting a bunch of weak heirs and their heroes. But Razel realizes that different energy is coming from Hylan, and Palav gets frustrated the hero called in extra help, even with her already there. The heroine gets suspicious about what Pretty Boy might be up to. In an isolated cave, Noah and his new hires walk through, and Burzy remembers that in his first life, he searched for monsters worthy of becoming his familiars, and it was here he found one, in the Necromancer's cave, sitting imposingly on his throne, radiating dark magic, with his eerie skeletal face, not at all pleased about the intruders. Our MC thinks, before Palav manages to disqualify the other 10 stars, he needs to act. So he reveals his horns and declares he's going to hide the Necromancer to make sure the succession war never ends. Noah screams in horror, realizing the guy he just hired was a demon king. The Necromancer, meanwhile, stares straight at our protagonist and lets out a scream twice as loud as the crybaby prince's. The Necromancer rises from his throne, facing the big bad, and laughs, saying he's hidden his life from every demon king specifically to avoid becoming a pawn. He serves no one, because he's the king of the undead. But suddenly a violet flame engulfs him, disintegrating his entire army, leaving him completely petrified. The demon king calmly asks if the Necromancer wants to die, and the skeleton instantly bows before Burzy, swearing total servitude. The demon, satisfied, says he'll let him live, but if he acts tough, he'll die like a dog. Hylan lifts the terrified 17th Prince, who finally understands Pale was actually the Black Flame Demon King, and that Hylan Cargill himself was his subordinate all along. Burzy then offers Noah the chance to become his familiar too, since with Jaspain's powerful empire, keeping this child heir under his control could be useful down the road. Noah refuses through tears, unwilling to betray the subjects who sacrificed themselves for him, nor the empire nor humanity, and showing a spark of courage, the prince swears he'd rather die than bow to a demon. At which point Burzy plants the little seed of evil into the kid, like force-feeding a child bad medicine. The boy collapses to the ground, writhing, and Burzy mentions he expected the refusal. Still, the more Noah hates him, the worse the pain gets, so it'd be smarter to just stop fighting it and swear loyalty to his new king. But Noah insists he'd rather die, and feels the seed's energy frying his brain. Hylan asks if the kid's dead, but Burzy explains no, that'd be a waste right now. He turns to the Necromancer, still bowed on the ground, and orders him to get up and get to work, leaving the skeleton anxious, since the heroes are already closing in. Elsewhere in the forest, energy spreads through the leaves, and the twin heroes Beam and Bong follow the trail to the lair, mocking that finding a Necromancer's hideout was easy for near 10-star heroes like them. The 11th princess, Sierra Jaspain, orders them to hurry inside before anyone else arrives. The group reaches the Necromancer's hall, and the princess warns them not to let their guard down since this monster is high level. The twins scoff, saying that's nothing to them. They'll finish off the necromancer in 10 seconds flat. And suddenly, in under 10 seconds, all three of them get frozen solid. The skeleton mocks them, asking if they liked the power boost he got from the Demon King's mana, saying he's now stronger than a calamity-grade monster. But Burzy tells the Skullhead not to get carried away, and orders him to take the frozen bodies away. With everyone captured so far now gathered, the Demon King calculates that with the Necromancer's healing magic boosted by his own mana, not even a 10-star hero should be a problem. If they keep luring everyone in and freezing them en masse, the succession war won't end anytime soon, and the 10 stars won't make it back to the guild in time. But Hylan mentions the heroes won't fall for it that easily. Still, Burzy has a plan and asks how the island situation looks. The hero reports it's not good at all. Star hero Wharton Kolo just got taken down by Palav Disrod, leaving only 6 stars remaining. Our MC gets worried. Not even half a day has passed. And if the King of Hilderan changes his mind with 7 or 8 stars gathered, they could kick off the hero's journey and everything would be over. The Demon King needs more time and decides he's going to handle Palav Disrod personally, but Hylan's shocked by his master's decision. He warns that the shredded Speedo guy is a monster, and no matter how strong his lord is, there's no way to win, but Burzy looks completely confident. Hylan shouts that Palav could take down the Beast Demon King solo. Meanwhile, the muscle-bound brute is smashing Ralph Schmidt's shield, the master of the Supreme Shield, saying he's been dying for this fight, and starts mercilessly wrecking the hero, eager to see his full power. Then a massive explosion goes off, and Ralph surrenders immediately, leaving Palav in disbelief. But the shield hero apologizes to the second prince for not being able to continue, and wishes him luck finding a way through the hardship ahead. Palav's outraged at the surrender, but Ralph explains his power is granting abilities to shields, except no shield in the world can withstand that brute. And what sounded like a compliment leaves the Speedo-clad masked guy annoyed, since he's only got 5 heroes left to disqualify. Watching from hiding, the Demon King notices Palav Disrod is exactly as bad as Hylan warned, and recognizes the guy's strength is insane, shattering Ralph's shield in a way even Draxon couldn't have pulled off. Burz asks how a hero this strong exists while Demon Kings are still around, and Hylan explains their towers hold valuable resources for humanity, so no hero can kill a Demon King without guild permission. Burz finds that rule pretty arrogant. He asks how someone as strong as Palav even exists, but Hylan admits honestly, nobody actually knows where that oiled-up freak in the pink Speedo came from. One day he just showed up out of nowhere with a single sword and soloed a calamity-grade monster, so it's best to just avoid him. But Burzy takes the risk anyway, walking straight up to Palav Disrod, asking who hired him. Palav taunts our MC, calling him Smelly Phoenix, and Rausel recognizes he's the guy who was with Hylan, so he must know about the mission. Burzy confirms he's aware of the plan to control the Empire, turning a puppet heir into Emperor, and asks if, with a scandal like this, the Empire and other kingdoms would just let the Heroes Guild off the hook. Rausel, annoyed, asks if our MC isn't with the guild and what he actually wants. Burzy suggests they stop interfering and go home, or news of the boycott would spread across every continent. Palav tells Rausel they got played, and the woman promises Hylan's going to pay for this. And Burzy doesn't care whether his opponent is a monster or someone who once soloed a Demon King, because ever since he came back to Arayan, he's given up on solving everything with brute force. Now he's going to use the very system humans created to tie their own hands, until someone walks up asking what the problem is. It's Flonja Spain, revealing that he was the one who hired both heroes. Burzy notices the prince's hero Ralph already got disqualified, so this is nothing but a bluff. But Rosen accepts the second prince's offer anyway. With the smaller details out of the way, Palav suggests they just settle this with a fight. The Demon King lets out a sigh, and since there's no other way, accepts the challenge. Wrapping himself in flames, he says, "Bring it on, big guy." Palav Disrod remembers the first time he saw the Phoenix's flames, and if it weren't for orders from his superiors, he'd have been right there. It was a sad day for the hero, who'd been craving a good fight, so standing in front of the Demon King made him shake with excitement. Palav says if our MC lets him down, he's going to be really disappointed. Burzy admits he never even saw the hero in his past life. Then, conjuring his flames, he honestly says he never cared about them back then. He'd been blinded by his own arrogance, treating everyone as beneath him. But this time, it'll be different. And with a supercharged fireball in hand, he swears to face this opponent with everything he's got. The flames keep building between them. Palav senses something's off. This heat isn't quite an attack, and it's not a stat debuff either, and thanks him with a half smile for that. The Demon King raises a barrier just for the two of them, where no one can interfere, knowing that if he loses, he'll be killed by the heroes all over again. With the Phoenix already summoned behind him, he tells Palav he's free to walk away anytime, even though he's dead set on avenging his past life and conquering the entire world. Palav mocks the Demon King, promising he's not letting him go until he's satisfied. So the two of them lunge at each other, triggering an absolutely nuclear-level explosion. Meanwhile, in the Necromancer's cave, Evan Gispain, 12th Prince, is with his men, who go pale feeling the earthquake caused by that century-defining fight. The stressed-out prince ignores his retainers, shouting, "It's finally his time to shine," warning that anyone who can't keep up dies right there. But suddenly they all get frozen, added to the collection. Hyland tells the Necromancer the earthquake made them easy prey, but finds it strange none of the 10 stars fell for the trap, and wonders if the freezing magic could even actually work on one of them. The hero heads to Noah's cell to bring him food, but finds the kid missing. Turns out he escaped wearing an invisibility cloak, a treasure of the Gispain imperial family during the earthquake. Hyland panics, realizing the prince is gone, and blames the Necromancer for it. Then he desperately tries contacting the Demon King without success, mostly because the big boss was busy fighting for his life against the masked hero. Hyland takes the blame for not double-checking earlier and runs off, figuring the kid can't have gotten far, leaving the Necromancer in charge of the frozen prisoners. Hyland is determined to find the prince before he reveals the hideout to anyone. But the moment he leaves, a hooded figure appears at the entrance of the cave. Then one of the undead finally tells the Necromancer he saw someone transparent fleeing the cave. But the Skullhead doesn't really care since he doesn't feel that loyal to the Demon King anyway. So along with his zombie, he decides to make a run for it too. But before they can leave, they're intercepted. The Necromancer, assuming it's another hero, casts his ice magic, but the intruder just raises his hands in defense, and the Skullhead feels his magic dissipate instantly. The mysterious man smiles darkly. On the outskirts of the island, Maya informs the prince that the fight inside the fireball is between Palav and Master Phoenix. Rufus reflects on how the Heroes Guild's arrogance really has no limits. He continues, noting how the princes and princesses of Gispain hire mercenaries using their own wealth, connections, and power to compete ever since the day they were born. And while burying his spear into yet another sibling, he concludes the firstborn always have the advantage, sneering that he only managed to hire Maya Duafrin. Rufus is jealous of whoever managed to hire both Palav and Roselle at once, without any guild interference. Word spreads, and Nicola Gispain, 5th Prince, figures it might have been a bribe to manipulate the outcome of the succession war. Meanwhile, the 6th Prince, Grey Gispain, plans to capture the Necromancer quickly and demand an audience with the Emperor to expose the guild's dirty scheme. And the 7th Princess, Marilla Gispain, adds that if they get credited for exposing this, they could gain an edge over their other siblings. Teoran Gispain is also racing, alongside his hero Jillian, to find the Necromancer's cave before the others. But to Rufus, his siblings are all idiots for not thinking past this. He orders them to find and kill whoever hired Palav and Roselle, since he intends to claim both for himself, and wonders who could have pulled that off. Maya guesses it's possibly someone hiding out somewhere nearby. Suddenly, Noah's invisibility cloak catches on a branch, revealing the crybaby's exact location, right next to where Rufus's convoy is passing by. Without hesitation, Rufus orders him killed, and Noah screams desperately, begging for a chance to explain. His older brother mocks him for trying to stall for time and repeats the order. Noah, horrified, realizes that out of everyone he could have run into, it just had to be his cruelest brother. Helen hunts frantically for Noah, thinking the Demon King can't die before he becomes the greatest hero. Tearing through the trees at top speed, hoping to reach the kid before he spills the beans. But suddenly a massive magic wall blocks his path, and Rosencharnt shows up, asking what the new Argon thinks he's doing, sending that pale guy off to mess with her job. She wants to know if the hero is disobeying the guild, but Helen denies it, warning he doesn't have time to argue and that he's in a hurry. The woman suddenly conjures chains to bind her friend, and snaps that whether it's the Demon Queen of Lust or the Beast Demon King, he's always the one who steals the credit in these situations. Furious, she demands Hyland tell her if he's hiding something again, but the hero's only focused on finding the kid, Noah. Suddenly, a purple energy sphere shows off the fight between Pale and Noah's tearful eyes, while the mysterious hooded figure watches everything from the Necromancer's throne, satisfied that everything is going exactly according to plan, and decides it's time to move on to the next step, one that involves our protagonist, Berza Deus. Noah, out of control, tries to reveal the truth about Master Phoenix Pale, but before he finishes the sentence, pain explodes in his head, and he collapses, screaming. His brother still thinks the younger one's just stalling for time and orders them to finish him off right now. Maya summons a death flower, saying it's nothing personal, she's just following orders. The flower opens up, hungry, aimed straight at Noah, and the heroine notes she's at least using a high-level spell to eliminate the prince in a dignified way. Noah wonders if this is really the end, and whether everything he lived for was really this meaningless. That's when a memory surfaces, an old conversation with his sister, admitting that in the Succession War, all he ever wanted was to save everyone, but that the nobles mock him for it, calling him a fool, and his sister confirms that's exactly the reputation he has. Noah feels the sting of that. And Kaidi Jaspain, ninth in the line of succession, asks why he cares so much about what other people think. The girl then turns to leave, saying she plans to run away from the castle that very night because she refuses to marry that old king. She adds that her brother's desire to save everyone isn't stupidity at all, then turns back to him and confirms, a true emperor is someone who protects everyone. Noah watches, emotional, as his sister walks away. Right as the assassin flower snaps him back to reality. Gripping a short sword, the boy thinks about the retainers who believed in him, his sister, and the brothers who trusted him with their own artifacts. Then he raises the sword, vowing he won't let things end like this, and charges forward, the blade crackling with lightning, straight at the killer flower. The strike lands, and he can barely believe he actually did it. That's when a knight appears, blade glowing, saying the prince has grown strong. Noah instantly recognizes the voice, shocked, and sees Katie, fully decked out in armor, to the point he doubts it's really her. A little while earlier, at the blazing fire tower on the 4th floor, Ernan's room, Kaidi sits watching a few people, who turn out to be Loger and Elena, testing Gordon's patience. But they quickly realize the assistant has a really short fuse. The princess laughs at the scene, until Ernan walks up and asks why the warrior isn't training. Kaidi greets the princess of Hilderan, who offers to sit down next to the princess of Jaspain. Ernan hands Kaidi some cookies and asks if the girl's off duty, but she says seeing Princess Elena reminded her of her own younger brother. Ernan gets curious, and Kaidi reveals he's her half-brother, and that he's probably already caught up in the Succession War by now, which is why she feels bad for being so cold to him before leaving the castle. Sadly, the girl admits she'd like to leave the tower to save him, though she doubts her own strength. But Ernan says sincerely that Kaidi is incredibly strong, and that she can feel a powerful aura leaking off her, way stronger than when they first met. Then mentions that even the Demon King had to use his own wings to block her last blow. That leaves Kaidi feeling confident, since she also believes those months in the tower were worth more than years of real training, and imagining she might already be close to a star hero's level, she thinks she could actually save her brother. Ernan encourages the heroine princess to go ahead, promising to explain everything to the Demon King once he returns. Then, smiling, she suggests Kaidi's going to need proper attire for one of the 4 celestial kings, but the princess reacts confused, awkwardly asking what Ernan's even talking about. Back in the present, Rufus stays frozen, demanding to know who this party crasher who just showed up even is, and Kaidi feels right at home. Proud to answer, she raises her blade and announces herself as the one born from a darkness deeper than night itself, capable of piercing the enemy's heart straight from the shadows. For she is the second blade of the celestial shadow kings, the dark night of death. Descending upon this very spot, Rufus and Maya are stunned by the heroine princess's dramatic entrance, while Noah, as usual, is one tear away from bursting into emotional sobs. Silence hangs in the air, and Rufus flashes a dark smile. Kaidi feels her face flush, realizing everyone's staring at her weirdly, and blames Ernan for the whole thing, remembering the armor Loger made specifically for her, with a powerful magic item that boosts attack and defense, as long as she recites specific lines while striking poses. Kaidi protests, mortified, saying she's never going to be able to get married after doing something like this. Burza, for his part, assures her that as long as she wears the armor, no one will know she's his subordinate. But she notices even the Demon King is laughing at her. Back in the fight, Kaidi does that little shudder under her armor, and Rufus mocks the warrior, saying she looks like she walked straight out of some stage play, which leaves her absolutely furious. The Archmage Maya Diaphragmal says she doesn't care which celestial king Kaidi claims to be, and promises to discard her if she gets in the way. Then casts the spell Swarm's March, unleashing a horde of plant monsters. Noah, panicking, begs his sister to dodge first, but Kaidi assures him she's fine, since she's the Dark Knight. She strikes her battle stance, explaining that if she were the type to run from a little intimidation like that, she'd never have worn a flashy armor like this in the first place. She remembers the brutal training back at the Blazing Fire Tower and how she grew to a completely different level. As the plants advance, she says if she can't even face a 10-star hero, then she hasn't truly grown at all, and with her spear raised, swears she'll never leave her brother alone again. Kaidi unleashes the strongest technique she's learned, tearing through the killer roots, leaving everyone present speechless at the sheer power, and asks the enemies to say again who exactly the weak heroine is now. Maya looks genuinely a bit impressed by the warrior's skill, but still considers it not enough to destroy her, and conjures something even more powerful. Kaidi is stunned. Her strongest technique didn't even tickle the star heroine, and the Archmage sends her plants forward, saying goodbye to the Shadow Knight. The heroine princess realizes she miscalculated a 10 star's actual strength, but suddenly feels the little seed of evil activate in her brain, and Burzy absorbs the connection, understanding that Kaidi and Noah are both in trouble. The seed also reveals to the Demon King that Noah escaped, which is why Hylan went after him. Except Kaidi tried to help her little brother and ended up in trouble herself, while Hylan, in his desperate search, also got stopped by Rosen's chains. Burz also starts sensing a demonic presence settling into the necromancer's cave, and the only one with enough power for that is Jason Cockmond. Burz considers this a major problem and channels his phoenix power to the max, thinking the necromancer needs to hold the plan together and prevent the hero's journey from starting. But to do that, he needs to defeat Palav and stop Jason from interfering with his goal. So he unleashes every bit of fire he can against the masked man, who this time actually feels the hit, and gets thrown backward, right into the flames. But Bears is already irritated, since Palav has an absolutely absurd constitution. And the brute just gets right back up, like he's having a blast at a playground. Burz doesn't even know what to do with this guy anymore, the #1 star hero, and tries to provoke him. But Palav answers, half crazed, that if the Demon King keeps this up, he's not going to be able to hold back. And Burzy, faced with that level of fury, decides that despite the risk, he needs to bust out his secret technique. A few minutes earlier, Hylan was hanging from Rosen's chains, trying to bargain for his freedom, asking if the heroine had researched the phoenix mana etched into the Beast Demon King's corpse, and figured she'd gotten stronger just from that single fragment. So he told her he could help her get the pure, unaltered source of that mana, which gets the heroine seriously interested. Maya's plants suffer a sudden, surprise attack, and it didn't come from Kaidi or Noah, but from Rosen and Hylan, who arrived and completely wrecked the Archmage. The hero then asked the Eye Patch woman to help him protect the 17th prince. Rufus nearly falls over, unable to believe the 3 strongest star heroes had all been hired by young Noah, who also had no idea how to answer that, looking like he was doing something terribly wrong to his own family. But Rufus, consumed by rage, orders them to kill the boy once and for all. Rosen immediately activates her magic, telling them to try their luck. Then Maya flares her own aura too, telling her friend she has no choice but to finish her off. Rosen's eyes practically shoot fire at the herbalist's audacity, but Maya confirms she's not just some apprentice anymore, and Rosen lets out a little laugh, the kind that says, "Wow, she's actually powerful now." Hylan immediately tells Kaidi to protect Prince Noah, and the girl freezes, unable to react. The battle between master and student begins, with Maya striking first, while Rosen watches her power closely. Rufus nearly falls out of his litter from the flash of light, and his retainers do everything they can to protect him. Kaidi, for her part, couldn't hold on to Noah, who gets sent flying through the air, caught in the massive explosion. Maya, satisfied, says Rosen's still relentless, but was still holding a trump card in reserve. The Eye Patch woman suggests the Archmage should have used that power earlier, since she had 2 opponents against her. Then Hylan emerges from behind, catching the young mage completely off guard. She doesn't even get the chance to defend against the hero's strike, who still apologizes for the hit. The smoke slowly clears, revealing the first prince's defeat, who immediately decides to flee, pathetically, while Hylan asks the Dark Knight how the 17th prince is doing. But Kaidi is still on the ground, shaking, and Hylan, worried, repeats the question about young Noah's whereabouts. But the heroine princess is asking herself the exact same thing. Far away, in the middle of the forest, Noah pulls himself up, his whole body aching, until a shadowy figure calls out to him among the trees. Noah quickly pulls a knife on the hooded figure, who reveals himself in the dim light. Jason then asks if the boy doesn't want to eliminate the Demon King and save everyone, and extends his hand, promising he could help him. Noah stumbles through the forest, barely conscious, until Kaidi and the others find him, anxious to know his condition. The knight checks if the boy's broken anything, while he stays silent, head down, explaining he was on his way back to the cave. Halen finds the prince's behavior strange, but figures the scare must have snapped him back to reality. So he asks Kaidi to escort the boy back to the cave, since he needs to deal with something involving Rosen. Hylan senses the seed's connection in the night, deducing she also serves the Demon King, and figures once they're far enough away, he'll deal with Rosen. But his real worry, watching them leave, is whether the boss can actually beat Palav. And speak of the devil, the masked man shows up, telling Rosal he's had plenty of fun here already and wants to go destroy that flaming fire tower. Hylan instantly asks where Pale is, and the masked man thanks the hero since he had a blast with his little buddy. Palav adds the opponent was tough, and with a bit more training, could probably even give Rosen a run for her money. Our protagonist had been defeated, and found it pretty pathetic to have to end things like that. Hylan can't believe the Demon King actually fell, and wonders for a moment what's going to happen to him, or to the seed in his own head. Suddenly he feels Rosen's chains gripping him again, and the heroine states he's under her custody now, then starts hauling him off with her magic, since they have some scores to settle, while Palav waves goodbye, all cheerful, until someone approaches, and the masked man says he can stop hiding now. Then Jillian Eint casually comments that the Speedo hero's always this arrogant, but the guy did just solo 4-star heroes after an exhausting fight against Pale, and doesn't miss a single second to celebrate the opportunity, especially once he found out the multi-hero attack was ordered by Jaspane's princes and princesses. So it turned into an all-out brawl, one our MC could still hear, still recovering in the crater, and came to the conclusion that the hero's journey couldn't be stopped, which meant his tower would fall, and he'd die all over again. Burzy couldn't wrap his head around why he was even reborn, if his fate was going to be exactly the same anyway, but he refused to accept it. After all, he'd sworn on the Demon King's code of conduct that he'd make the heroes crawl like ants, and that he could easily conquer dimension after dimension. Respected as the greatest Demon King of the entire realm, rising to the rank of Archduke, and then the Demon Emperor's throne, but he wondered if he'd stay attached to that throne, until a new emperor eventually rose, always alone, until Ernan appeared in his imagined future as emperor, like a balm to soothe him. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts in front of the heroes, leaving Hylan completely overjoyed, even while chained up in Rosen's floating seal. Who's thrilled about the news too, since this was genuine Phoenix mana, something she'd been dying to research. And this time, the one who wasn't laughing was Palav, realizing the Phoenix had indeed risen from its ashes. Our MC recognized the little yellow chick that once woke him up for a much better life. Figuring the little guy just couldn't stand watching his master lose, Burzy felt the power surging through him, way more mana than usual, enough to even use forbidden magic. Still, he found himself lost in thought, wondering why Ernan's face popped into his mind at such a random moment. Palav witnessed the Phoenix's wings, and thrilled declared he was the best of the best, then charged in with his longsword, but was shocked to see his attack blocked by nothing but wings. And suddenly, the hero felt the heat consuming him, blasting him far away. Palav found himself in another dimension, hearing Berza ask what the worst-case scenario for a Demon King even was. Until it hit him, given the sheer strength, the Phoenix wasn't just some human, he'd been a Demon King the entire time. Palav realized he'd been dragged into that dimension specifically because he wouldn't be able to sense the MC's mana, except the masked man was special, and in that space he seemed to grow even stronger. He said the worst-case scenario for a Demon King would be becoming his prey, since he never failed to kill his targets. But Berze calmly told him the hero was wrong, because the actual worst-case scenario would be the masked man trapped forever, completely alone, unable to do anything at all. Then he invoked the seal of an arcane spell, dragging the oiled-up Speedo muscle man into purgatory. Palav felt his body compress inside a sphere, and, unfamiliar with that kind of magic, wondered why Bears only used it now. Bears explained that under the Demon King's code of conduct, he's not allowed to show fear or avoid fighting a hero. And even though he thinks that code is a load of nonsense, our MC still couldn't just toss his pride aside. Until Ernan crossed his mind again, then Burzy admitted he didn't care about any of that stuff anymore, and decided to pour all of his dragon mana together with his Phoenix mana, to seal the overpowered masked man away. forever. Palav begged Burzy to stop the spell, saying he couldn't stay trapped there for eternity. But our MC didn't care one bit and declared the hero's journey was over, permanently. The hero still tried to threaten the Demon King, but the ceiling of the rank 1 star hero was already complete. Burz returns to the normal dimension, and while Rosen jumps at the Demon King's presence, Hillen cheers like he just scored a touchdown. Still, the big boss wants to know from the hero why such a simple task, protecting a crybaby prince, turned out to, be so hard, but Hylan has no comeback. Razel asks what Pale did to Palav, since they went so high up not even the mana could be felt, with no way of knowing who actually won. Burzy explains he gave Palav the fight he was craving, and afterward they struck a deal where the masked man would stay hidden for a while, with regular rematches. Rosen says knowing Palav, he'd definitely go for that kind of deal. Burza thinks maybe he shouldn't have wasted so much power on the ceiling, and that offering a deal from the start might have been the smarter move. Pale asks about the bound heroes, and Rosen says they wouldn't give up that easily, so she chained them up while they were unconscious. Pale asks if he can take these heroes with him, but Razel refuses instantly, so he offers her a deal which piques her interest. And through telepathy, Hylan desperately tells his master to offer her mana. Burzy immediately says he'll give the heroine a portion of the purest Phoenix mana, considering it an absolutely priceless treasure for any mage. Rosen tries to contain her joy, but our MC says he'll send it to her later, through the mana veins. Rosen thinks about her research, stuck for years despite already knowing every spell in the world, and figures that if she could actually study Phoenix mana, it would break through countless barriers in her knowledge. Still, she pushes back, saying Hylan promised her the exact same thing, and never came through either, so how could she trust our boss? Burzy simply turns to leave, since she's not cooperating, but the red-headed eye-patch woman quickly gives in and agrees to sign the contract. And with the document in hand, the heroine climbs onto her transport, asking only that our boss not hurt the prisoners. Burzy, now with his shipment of heroes, figures freezing them would put him closer to preventing the hero's journey. Still, a strange feeling nags at him like he's forgetting something. Then Hylan, relieved, reports young Noah is heading back to the cave, but says he'll drag him back by force if necessary. The Demon King finds it strange the kid would agree to go willingly, and suddenly starts flying, ordering Hylan to take the heroes. Since Noah was so full of justice, the seed just didn't work on him, so he refuses to believe the kid actually went to the necromancer's cave on his own. Inside, a spell is being cast on Kaidi, standing next to Noah and the frozen heroes, and the heroine princess accepts she can't fight against that kind of power. Then the young heir walks toward the necromancer's throne, commenting that his sister once told him wanting to protect everyone was foolish, and says he met an emissary sent by the Empire, with news that the population believed only he could put an end to the massacre, handing him an artifact capable of freeing everyone who was frozen and defeating the Demon King. Noah then puts on the ring, accepting the mission to defeat the enemy and bring peace to his people, working himself into a frenzy at the thought of becoming Jaspain's one true hero, then screams that this will be the end of the Demon King of the Blazing Fire Tower and activates the artifact on his finger. Burzy, agonized, realizes Jason kept him busy with Palav specifically so he could get to the princes and princesses. He replays his whole plan step by step, but he's too late reaching the necromancer's cave. At the Jaspain Imperial Castle, the succession candles are laid out, ready to reveal the war's winner, and a kneeling advisor tells the emperor the winner has already been chosen. Even the almighty ruler is surprised it happened faster than expected, so he orders the man to make the announcement. The message echoes through the hall, revealing the chosen one is the 17th prince. Noah stood among the icy wreckage, frustrated by his failed promise to free the captives and defeat the Demon King. But Burzy tells the boy he got tricked by the Demon King of Lies, and has to hold himself back from finishing off the foolish kid right then and there. Hylan arrives, way too slow as usual, dragging the chained bodies, and Burzy reports that all the princes and princesses died, except Noah. Hylan then mentions the Imperial forces will be arriving on the island soon, to escort the new emperor, but he sees no problem since the next step is to freeze the heroes and flee. After all, he can't give up on his own personal goals. The necromancer sobs profusely, apologizing for his failure, claiming he had no choice against the Demon King of Lies, and, bowed down, explains he was forced to burn through all his mana just to freeze everyone. Hylan charges at the Skullhead, asking if he should kill the chained heroes too. Kaidi steps in and says no, explaining that a hero's aura acts as a powerful shield, protecting them even while unconscious. Hylan readies one more punch anyway, and Burzy orders him to stop the killing. The necromancer then mentions that if the boss shared some mana, he could still freeze them properly. But our demon is completely drained from the fight with Pallav, and reiterates it's impossible to kill the heroes while they're not awake. He's furious, since at this point there's nothing he can actually do. Realizing Jason had planned everything, right up to this exact moment, while the Demon of Lies himself watches our MC through a crystal ball, impressed by his resourcefulness, considering he's been in this world for less than 10 years, and already manipulating a hero. Still, the Green Devil knows their levels are worlds apart. Burza could never actually beat him, until the guards storm into the cave, ordering them to escort the prince and eliminate the necromancer, who, desperate, nearly reveals Burza's true identity, but gets silenced by a left hook. Then the guards thank Pale Phoenix for his identity, calling it an honor to meet him here, and the disguised hero says he'll take the skull head with him. After a lot of bloodshed, Noah gets supported by his own men, declared the war's winner, and every 10-star hero except Pallav returns to the Heroes Guild. Since Burza Deus's tower was the hero's journey's next target, Hernan goes to talk to the Demon King, who doesn't even show his face when he gets back, but she notices the boss doesn't exactly look happy. So she asks if the 9 heroes are already on their way, and Burza, lost in thought, confirms it. The princess asks if they can be stopped, but there's no answer, for long seconds. Then Hernan mentions there might be hope if she returned to Hilderan. Immediately after the Succession War ends, the Demon King returns to the Blazing Fire Tower. Gordon greets him while shouting that the operation was a total failure, and the heroes will soon have them surrounded. Worried, Burzy asks if the defenses are ready. The team gathers in the 5th floor strategy room, and the Demon King asks what Elena's even doing there. Gordon explains he called her in to speed up the report and says he'll kick the little intruder out, but Burzy just tells them to carry on. On the 1st floor, Loger reports they've finished 100 mana cannons, capable of blowing heroes away with a single shot. On the 2nd floor, Lavinia reports the Chimera Legion is ready to take on 500 heroes, excluding the star-ranked ones. On the 3rd floor, Kaidi admits she's grown stronger with training, but still feels too weak against a 10-star hero, and Elena keeps studying magic, deciding to show off her progress, while Lavinia says she's a fast learner. On the 4th floor, Hernan promises not even 10 10-star heroes would be a problem for her, or at least not for one of them. Gordon also reports that Krutu's tribe is ready, though a head-on fight against the star heroes would be impossible. An avalanche, or luring in monsters, would be the more viable move. Loger, pumped, guarantees his artillery will wipe out every last one of them, but the grumpy assistant asks for a bit more respect in front of the Demon King. Still, Burzy says it's fine, calmly thanking him for the suggestion, and asks everyone to return to their posts. The subordinates are all caught off guard by their lord's unexpected kindness. Hernan is the last to leave, trying to figure out what's going on, but says nothing. Burzy waits in silence next to Gordon. The assistant assumes there's ultimately no way to stop the hero's journey, and our MC mentions 9 star heroes are participating. He calculates that even with Heelan Cargill infiltrated among the heroes, the guy could only manage to eliminate 2 or 3 low-ranked stars, and the tower doesn't have the power to hold off the rest of the army. He remembers spending nearly all his strength sealing away Pallav Disrod. Burz considers relying on Phoenix regeneration, but since its abilities are still largely unknown, decides not to risk his own life on it, and concludes he might currently be even weaker than Hylan, meaning he'd need time he doesn't have to recover his power. Still, Gordon says he's got a solution, and that his master in some way already knows exactly what it is. Burzy lowers his gaze and decides to step away for a bit. At the top of the tower, he thinks about what Gordon mentioned, but realizes it's actually something he already knew, right as footsteps approach. It was Hernan coming to firmly announce she's heading to Hilderan. Burzy asks if it was Gordon who told her, but the princess says it was her own idea and mentions the hero's journey costs a fortune. She points out this whole campaign will probably drain half of Hilderan's treasury, so she figures her father must be worried sick about it. But if she returned, there'd be no reason to continue the journey. Burza agrees that would solve everything and accepts that the princess would be better off in the palace than in the Demon King's tower. But suddenly the little blonde announces, furious, that she plans to destroy Hilderan, and our MC thinks there might be another path. Because the moment he got back to the tower and saw her at that meeting, this was the very first plan that popped into his head, and he wonders why it took him this long to remember such a simple strategy, even after the whole Succession War. But suddenly he feels a strange tightness grip his chest. He looks back at the princess, and without much choice, lets her go, telling himself it's for the sake of his future conquests. But with the girl gone, he might actually be able to understand what he's feeling. Hernan, in disbelief, asks if the boss is really going to let her go that easily, and our MC defends himself, saying it was her idea. Thoughtfully, the little blonde admits everyone here has ended up growing close, each with their own style, race, and beliefs, united by their roles and goals, which somehow made even the Demon King strangely gentle with his own hostages. Ernan asks if the boss even has feelings, and Berzi thinks he needs to keep her close to study this exact sensation. Berzi's caught off guard by the word close, internally wondering if a Demon King can actually harbor feelings for a human. Then he admires the captive princess's sweet, peculiar way of being. Ernan confirms she's made up her mind and asks to be sent back through Hillen Cargill, since he's Hilderan's hero, which would make the whole thing symbolic. But the Demon King calls out to Ernan and gives her a necklace, so she never forgets she belongs to him. She questions it, intrigued by the jewel, but the king explains it's just a communication necklace, to guarantee she's still his hostage. He adds that with Elena staying at the tower, she won't do anything reckless, and mentions he might even make her Queen of Hilderan someday, just to manipulate the whole kingdom. She teases that all he cares about is conquest, and that he'll probably keep kidnapping other princesses while she's away. Berz admits, yeah, probably. Ernan then asks him to never forget she was the first one to hold his hand, and, with zero pressure, says if he ever forgets her, he's a dead man. Berzi smiles, realizing that's exactly why he was so reluctant to let her go. Later, in the strategy room, he orders the data sent to Hillen, since he's the key piece in the operation to rescue Ernan. The hero then reaches out to talk about the breaking news on the show Chat with the Devil, announcing that the hero's journey's departure has been delayed due to injuries the star heroes sustained during the war, and that everyone's currently gathered in Hilderan. And suddenly Hillen asks to be given Ernan, leaving the Demon King completely thrown off. But Berza doesn't intimidate easily, and quickly activates the Seed of Evil. Furious at the hero's audacity, trying to take Ernan from his possession, immediately, Hyland starts feeling his brain fry, begging his master to wait until he finishes the sentence. The Demon King gives him a chance and orders Hyland to continue. The hero, now recovered, explains he secured cooperation from the King of Hilderan, in the Kingdom of Hilderan. One of the advisors tries to convince the furious king to reconsider the hero's journey, given the massive costs, even while acknowledging Princess Ernan's importance. After all, with every hero deployed in the kingdom, the finances were going deep into the red, but the king shouts back that doing that would mean paying a fortune in penalties. So he orders the prime minister to figure something out, and the official thinks, as always, that it's on him to clean up the king's mess. But suddenly Hillen shows up in the kingdom, saying he's got the solution. He promises to clear the kingdom's debts by rescuing the princess himself. The king gets excited, saying the hero is their only hope for a task like this. But in exchange, Hillen respectfully asks the king for one thing: his help. There were magic teleportation circles scattered across the continent, designed for national crisis emergencies. Hyland used Hilderan's first-class, ultra-secret teleport circle, letting him cross the entire continent in an instant and arrive at Regressed. And after a shock at the tone of the king's voice, the Demon King allowed Ernan to accompany the hero in the plan. Loger couldn't hold back tears over the farewell, especially over the cookies the princess used to bake, but she promised she'd be back soon. Lavinia also got sad watching the princess leave, and Elena begged her sister not to leave her all alone. The drama got so intense even Ernan lost her usual cuteness, telling everyone to hold it together, and she stared at the MC waiting for him to say something to her. Berzi looked at her for a second and promised he'd come get her soon. Ernan blushed and smiled, feeling secure enough to finally leave. Later, at a tavern in Hilderan, the hero's journey was the main topic. People were saying the greatest legends of the era were heading off to war, except Pallav Disrod, who kept reinforcing just how dangerous the Demon King really was. But someone burst into the place, saying where there's danger, there's also treasure. And he was recognized as Vice Captain Bark, from the legendary vanguard of the Crimson Falcon mercenaries, who had 0 casualties in their first invasion of the tower. The man confirmed it, though his face looked exhausted, recounting the whole journey they went through during the mission. The other guild members listened closely to what the vice captain had to say, and Bark mentioned that even though they never found the tower, the captain discovered a mountain worth looting. But he lost everything, without a single measly coin left to show for it, and all because the captain got dragged into a fierce battle while weighed down by all that heavy loot and lost every last cent. The mercenaries were stunned by the tragedy, and Bark confessed he regretted it deeply, since if the captain had just trusted him with the money, they'd never have ended up broke. The vice captain waited to see how the members would react, and one of the mercenaries raised his coin pouch, offering it to the man, while others muttered, unsure whether to trust him with their own funds. But suddenly, more members raised their gold, trusting the vice captain, since he was also a man Hyland Cargill personally trusted. Bark, thrilled, promised he'd take good care of the men's gold and never make the same mistake again, leaving everyone hyped, chanting his name like he was the savior of their entire financial future. Rosen watched with disdain off to the side at the crowd the hero was gathering. Frustrated, she never got her hands on that phoenix mana, thanks to Pale vanishing, but she swore she'd find out what Hylan was hiding, even if she had to squeeze it out of his own subordinates, until a vassal came rushing over to fill her in on the latest news, which left Rosen even more furious with Hylan. Reading that, he'd already rescued Princess Ernan, and with that, the hero's journey had officially been cancelled. A man ran over to the mercenaries to share more news, that their captain had gone off alone with Hylan on the mission, which left them all furious with the vice-captain, now that the whole journey had been cancelled. Bark turned purple trying to explain the misunderstanding, struggling to figure out what Captain Granada had even done. The minister was outraged, complaining about the hero's journey getting cancelled, but the king shouted back that he didn't need to spend the money now, since his daughter was safe, and the advisor pointed out that this would wreck their credibility with the legendary heroes. Reluctantly, the monarch shot back that the most important thing was rescuing Ernan, and that Elena could rot in the Demon King's hands for all he cared. Besides, the Heroes Guild had no real grounds to contest the cancellation. Meanwhile, Beerze watched all of it unfold, realizing just how pathetic humans could be, tearing each other apart all on their own. He mentioned he didn't expect to see this big a rift open up between the kingdom and the heroes just from sending Ernan back, but he liked the chaos. After all, he didn't need to face the heroes with brute force. Using his brain was more than enough, so he wondered why the Demon King's code was so rigidly stuck in the past. Meanwhile, Bark was completely wrecked, and Beerze knew all that rage was going to need another outlet, and with the man getting crucified by the other mercenaries demanding justice, Beerze knew the hero's journey would eventually come, and he needed to prepare for that moment, because one day he'd have Ernan back, until Granada reached out to report a disaster in the Yaspain Empire, since they'd just announced they were taking over Hildurin's hero's journey, and the young Emperor Noah announced he'd be funding the Star Heroes himself. But there was one condition: subjugate the Demon King of the Blazing Fire Tower.